Jesus Christ, you people suck.
Wow.
Wolverine wanted to be in this.
Back in the days when we played video games, it was hardcore for the nerdy and lazy. Now things have changed and all our video games are also for the casual and lady.
But that's okay, you know the score. We told you a million times before. Playing consoles, not just games, is in the past. And every week you listen to the best damn internet radio crew. It's the N4G podcast. It's the N4G podcast.
Alright, it's time for another week of N4G Radio. This is our Game of the Year 2021. Unlike other places, we waited until the year was over and all the games were out. But anyway, on the show this week, we will have Anthony.
Hello.
We will have the Wombat.
Yep.
We have Jay joining us. Welcome.
Thank you. Buongiorno. It's been a while, fellas.
It has. And Drew, fashionably late. He will be here, though. He has to tell us what his wife's favorite game is. Remember that. Anyway, so every year we kind of do this. We bring, people on the show. They get their lists curated, and then we have a discussion about the best games of 2021. I don't know about y'all, but I heard a lot of dialogue on Twitter of, 2021 was a bad year. And as I was, doing my list, I was like, how is this a bad year?
I don't
That's
think
nonsense.
I don't think it's a bad year. I think in comparison to 2020, I think, and this is probably just because the pandemic delayed a bunch of stuff, this year wasn't as hard hitting as 2020.
I think the interesting thing about this year is that when I was picking my number 1, number 2, number 3, there weren't games that are oh yeah, these are the ones that are head and shoulders above everything else. It didn't come to mind immediately, but there were so many great games that they were very similar in quality and the impact that they've left on me. So in that way, I could kind of see it. But you also have to realize that the people that are kind of saying those things is that they have a very limited amount of genres they're looking into, right? So they're not looking at the indie games that are coming out. They're not looking at like the more, I guess, the Japanese RPGs and other things of that nature that might have come out. So if they only care about first-person shooters, then yeah, there has only been a handful of those that are actually excellent this year. But if you are talking about a wide range of genres, indie, AAA, AA, and all that stuff, I think there's a tremendous amount of games that came out that are fantastic.
Agreed.
Yeah, there was. I was going through my list. I was like, damn, there's a lot of really good games that came out this year. But anyway, let's kick it off. Anthony, I'm going to go to you first.
All right, quickly throw some special mentions out. Mostly stuff that I couldn't put on my list for one reason or another. Cruise and Blast, very good game. I would just want to mention it because I think people should play it. I think Hot Wheels kind of stole the spotlight with all the licenses, but Cruise and Blast is arguably the better game.
Oh, it's not even. It's not even an argument.
Yeah,
Cruise and Blast
you know what I mean though. It is a better game, but I feel the conversation is Hot Wheels.
What's funny is the conversation of Hot Wheels was lasted all of 20 minutes.
I still see people talk about it, and it's just man, try Cruise and Blast. I think you'll have a better time.
Oh, 100%. I played Hot Wheels, I think, before Cruise and Blast, and then I played Cruise and Blast, and I immediately almost deleted Hot Wheels. I'm I'm never going to play this again.
It was just something that couldn't make my list for a reason I can't put my finger on. It's a very good game, but I think its simplicity, it would be picking a Space Invaders game. It would be really weird in comparison to the depth and the emotion that other games had. But it's a very good game, and you should play it. Famicom Detective Club, really like those. They show their age though, and it's weird because those are the only 2 games that in the series, so they'd have to make new ones if they wanted to continue it. But they were really well done.
What
Sorry?
year did the Famicom games originally come out? I know they're a
Uh,
remake, but I don't know when the originals
They were
came out.
NES, right?
they were
Really?
original Famicom disk system. And what's crazy is, and I wrote in my review, but I don't have it here. What's crazy is I actually looked up footage when I did my review because I wanted to see how true 1988.
Oh
And
my God.
I'm going to tell you right now, they don't feel like 1988 games. Because these are really well done remasters, essentially.
Mm.
New art, but the gameplay's the same. And there's certain moments where it's a visual novel, but then there's something that happens in the background. And I'm like, did they do that in the original? And they did. And it's so well done. And I went, oh my God, they recreated this scene for scene. Like have to they didn't have to change anything. Like they were so advanced at the time that this plays like a semi-modern visual novel still.
But for a game that came out in 1988, and I imagine they changed a lot of aspects of the visuals and possibly some parts of the gameplay, but the story needs to remain basically the same, doesn't it? Does it
Yes,
still hold up for a game from 88?
that's what's crazy. Yes, it does.
Wow.
I was surprised, but the gameplay really hasn't changed much because I think they did a very good job originally. There's a few moments where I went, man, having to talk to the same character on the same subject multiple times is a very old style of visual novel. But outside of that aspect, everything seemed right. Like, I've played other visual novels. This seemed like it's on par with other visual novels. The visuals have all changed. They have full voice acting in Japanese, which makes sense because it takes place in Japan. But like outside of a few moments, I was like, wow, these are really well done. And like again, going back to the Super Nintendo and the Famicom originals, because I did remake this game once before in Japan. Yeah, they haven't changed much. Obviously, I'm working off of fan translations to see how much the story has changed, but they hit the same beats, and yeah, I was really shocked by how good those games were. But like in a world of 2021 where there was a lot of good games, it wasn't going to make my list still. And the other one is Olea, which I loved. It was a great platformer game. Came out at the beginning of the year, but it's just wasn't going to make my list. So I'll start off
Did you
with.
skip over Shadow Man? I thought you started to say.
Oh
Shadow.
yeah, sorry, Shadow Man Remastered. Yes, I said it, and then I didn't. We went back to Famicom Detective Club. Yeah, Shadow Man Remastered. It's what I remember Shadow Man being. Going back to the original Shadow Man, it's rough to play the original Shadow Man on anything other than the remastered version. Obviously I played it on PC. It's not out on consoles yet.
It's out this
I
week,
love...
baby. I can't wait.
Oh,
I haven't
good
played
timing.
it yet, and I've been dying.
Have
to
you
play.
You've played it before, right?
I played the original. I played it on N64 and PlayStation. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love Shadow Man, but in terms of a remaster, it's one of those. They did a lot of technical stuff to it. But like Quake, because I didn't play Quake the remaster, so I can't speak to it. It wasn't enough of a change. It's like, oh, this plays like I remember, and I like the game already. It's the reason why I didn't put Wonder Boy: The Dragon's Trap at the top of my list. That remake, the year the remake came out, because I already love the game. So it's not really fair to anything that's brand new. If you can change my mind or make me feel better about the game as a remake or a remaster, then we have a conversation. But if it's just making me feel the same things I felt long ago, you've done a good job as a remaster, but I don't know if that's enough to make a Game of the Year list.
I think that's a prelude to one of the games on your list. Oh.
Yes.
Sorry.
Wow. Yeah. So I'm just gonna mention one. I have a biggest disappointment and a worst game. My biggest disappointment, I thought it might be Metroid Dread, but it wasn't. It was Eastward. Visually, that game is stunning. But playing that game was a fucking chore, and I gave up on it. Too much dialogue, not enough gameplay. The dialogue didn't make me feel anything. It just seemed like filler to try to tell a story and make these characters more quirky. And that is not how you make a game. Plain and simple. I know there's a bunch of people that love that game. They kind of sold it like, oh, it's like a Zelda game. It's really not. It's really more of a visual novel that just really takes its time and is uninteresting. With some moments where it plays like Zelda. They have that Earthbound art style. from pictures, I followed that game for years, and for it to be what it is very disappointing. Because it's like you looked at other video games for your inspirations, but you learned none of the lessons that they had to offer.
That
So
sounds,
that's
that sounds
my
like the Dark Souls comment, kind of.
yeah.
You
yeah,
took a shortcut.
very-
You gained nothing.
yeah. Well, I thought you were mentioning like like my how I feel about Dark Souls, where it's like a lot of people look at Dark Souls and then try to make their own version without learning any of the lessons that Dark Souls has to offer about game design. That's what Eastward did. Eastward looked at Zelda and looked at Earthbound and took none of the lessons for the story from Earthbound and none of the gameplay lessons from Zelda, and it made its own thing, but that's not good. Um, I'll save my worst game for right before number 1. Number 10, It Takes Two. It was going to make my list. I think it's one of the best platformers out there. There's been a lot of discussion about it recently about being a family game. It's not. I
No.
don't know why they won that award, but it's not a family game. It's about a divorce, and like there's only so many ways that can end. So, you know, pick your poison on how you think that ends. It's still probably not healthy for children to see because divorce is multifaceted, as are most human relations. Number 9, Biomutant. Sometimes you just want a game that you kind of turn your brain off and go and hack and slash and loot and stuff, and that's kind of
Man,
what Biomutant is.
so many people shat on that game, and I enjoyed the hell out of that game.
It was my sort of Fallout 3 not doing the main storyline type of game, you know? Like, oh, I'm just going to wander, oh, what's that shiny thing, right? Like, I liked that game a lot.
And I loved the fucking dialogue. It was so, I don't know, the cricket
It's weird.
talking to you. It just,
Yeah. And, like, all the things, like, the past that you're going through and, like, the leveling up and armor, and there was a lot of customization. I think a Biomutant 2 would be great because I think it would fix a lot of the sort of shortcomings of this. Like, as much as I like the cricket does all the dialogue, you know, if you're gonna pay people to make little noises, like, just pay people to read your dialogue. But I like the world that I was exploring and everything. So yeah, I put it on my list. It was like one of those like, you know, like, but I didn't finish it, but I put a lot of time into it. And like, I don't think finishing it was the point of me playing Biomutant. It was more of have fun.
Oh, you didn't get to
and I
pick
did.
who was on your ship.
I don't care.
It really didn't
I liked
make.
hacking and slashing, and I liked shooting, and I liked looting, and it was all the things that I wanted to do with Biomutant when I saw it, and I did it, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I really like that game.
Driving a little hovercraft around, piloting a mech. These are all things that you get to do. It's awesome.
The mech and the boat and the hovercraft and that game was cool.
Number 8, Eternal Cylinder. Rarely does a game feel alien. Like, truly alien. Everything that's alien is always just kind of like what you'd expect, right? Like, gray people, you know, like big mushrooms. And Eternal Cylinder made this world that seems completely unreal. And I loved it. It's a survival crafting game, but it tries to follow none of the rules that other games have set out on that, and it does a really good job of reinventing how crafting and survival aspects work, because the cylinder is always moving and you only have so much time, you know, before you have to move on forward in the game, and the cylinder starts rolling again, and then there's these weird enemies, and Ace Team really knocked it out of the park with this. I think it's both visually the most accessible game that they've made, that's purely theirs, except maybe Rock of Ages, and just it's one of the most fun games I played this year. It's so different from everything else, and I loved it. And I love the narrator, and I love the alien design. The Trebums are bloody stupid looking things, and I love them all because they all change form. And then there's the body horror aspect, which I wasn't expecting, but it's there. And yeah, I really like the Eternal Cylinder a lot. Number 7 is Bowser's Fury. could include Super Mario 3D World, but like another one of those remakes where the changes are minimal. It kind of plays how I remember, not how it actually played. But Bowser's Fury alone was worth the price. Um, Everybody just needs to play it. If you like 3D Mario and you haven't played Bowser's Fury, you need to play Bowser's Fury. It's one of the best 3D Mario experiences. It's short, it's concise, and all I want them to do is make more of that, just longer. So, take like the world of Bowser's Fury and then just make more worlds like that are these slowly expanding environments that all kind of link together and have their own separate stars. And oh man, that game is so good, and you can play it co-op, which breaks the game entirely because it makes it too easy. But yeah,
I mean, co-op in Nintendo games a lot of times breaks them.
Yeah,
kind of the
yeah.
point.
Well, I mean, this 3D world doesn't. It actually makes it harder. But like, yeah, it's a really good experience just for that. But you also get 3D world, which is a really amazing and super difficult towards the end Mario game. Number 6. Jay's not back, unfortunately. Nocia. Nocia. Oh, you're here. Good.
Yeah, I'm eating, but I'm listening.
Okay. So Nocia, I got early on in the year. I bought it. A friend turned me onto it. It is a visual novel / deduction game where you are trying to. People have been selling it as Among Us, but a visual novel. And that's not really what it is. That's the kind of main loop of the gameplay because it is a time loop game. And I thought at first, oh, this isn't a very good one of those because the deduction aspect of the game is very simple and is built around stats. So you can build up your lying stat, you can build up your deception. You can be able to spot other people lying easier, and you level up by like winning every round because eventually the round ends once the Nocia win or the humans win. And that isn't the main focus of the game. The main focus that at first it's just win or lose. And you have different roles, and the roles have different abilities within the conversation, and you can either choose to expose yourself in the role or lie and say you're in the role. There's a lot of choices, but what it really is about is figuring out more about each character that you come across. And it's figuring out what you have to do to reach that next sequence in that person's information tab. So like in the computer, everybody has like, oh, this person has 4 sequences that you need to see, or 4 pieces of information you need to get. And so it's trying to figure out what you have to do when they show up in the loop, because not everybody's in every loop, and to get to those sequences. And that was extremely fun. Once I realized I was trying to find information, and every time you got to another aspect of the story, and not just the loop, it was exciting, it was invigorating, and it has one of the best endings that is so well done. It kind of blew me away. I thought about this game all year. It wasn't really talked about. It's supposed to be coming to PC because it's only Switch right now.
I've been waiting for this PC release, and they keep delaying it. There's no information. It's been terrible.
Yeah, I love it. It's like I said, it's number 6, just because there was better games I think that hit me harder this year. But Nocia is fantastic. If you like visual novels that don't just give you the story, that you kind of have to solve a very different type of puzzle to get, I recommend it full-heartedly. Also, one of the most unique set of characters ever. Some of the stuff you find out is bizarre. Number 5, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. Yeah, it's a lot like what I remember, but they've added a bunch of stuff, which is always a good thing for Pokemon. And after being sort of turned off with the Pokemon X and Y and kind of what it was becoming, to return to the series and feel like, no, this is a better version of the game I played a decade plus ago. yeah, I mean, man, I Diamond and Pearl are my favorite Pokemon games, and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl just add on that. The Underground has been changed to add new content. Um, the mystery gift, I don't have to buy Pokemon Ranger again. I did at the time. Like, it, it's just fantastic. And the way that they solve the problems of like not having a dual screen works really well. And yeah, I love this game. Maybe I'm cheating, but it's like because it doesn't follow my rules about remakes, but it does change like that. Just the fact the experience shares on all Pokemon and doesn't feel like it absolutely breaks the game is great for me. Like I just think that's fantastic. And I hated it in X and Y. I thought it was too powerful in X and Y. So I don't know if they changed it. I love seeing all the Pokemon in 3D, so it's like I don't have to have Battle Revolution, which was the last like Pokemon Stadium type game for Wii. It's everything I want out of a Pokemon game. I don't need anything more than this. And I'll play Pokemon Legends Arceus, but no, to me this is where Pokemon peaked and should just stay this way. Number 4 is what I think Ken was expecting. Skyward Sword HD. I hated the original Skyward Sword with a passion, and I loved the Switch version. And it's because it fixed a lot of the problems that I had. Fee doesn't talk as much. The sword combat works on the analog stick.
So use the analog instead of the motion controls.
Yep, and I loved it.
I can't tell you the last time I removed the Joy-Cons from my Switch. I fucking hate those things.
I also tried to play Skyward Sword again. I tried the Wii U version ages ago, but I never really gave it a fair shot until the Switch version. And I put in maybe about 4 or 5 hours. It just didn't hook me. I kept switching back between the motion controls and the analog. Every time I would use the analog, I felt like it was more playable, but I felt like I was missing out on the point of the game at the same time. So it kind of left like a bad taste in my mouth when I was using it that way. So it's like, I don't know. It just isn't for me.
I got everything. I got every heart piece. I think it totaled out around 40 hours. And,
which was the tutorial in the original game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's just it, right? Like, the game originally had too much hand-holding, and this one decided, like, no, like, that's not what this game is about. We're not going to tell you every time you pick up the same item. And, yeah, it was way better than what I gave it credit for at the time, because I hated the original. And so, to change my mind on a game I hated, I think goes a long way. And to make it a game I love, says even more. But it couldn't beat out number 3, which is New Pokemon Snap. I've been wanting a new Pokemon Snap. Been wanting a new Pokemon Snap for years, and it's perfect. I mean, they added more content after the fact, and like what was there was great. The only thing that it came short of is like in the original, there was puzzles to solve where they called them, I think, Pokemon Constellations or something like that. And like it was Pokemon that were in the environment, and you could only get it like a split second of a shot because the environment lined up in a certain way. And I kind of wish they had stuff like that. But what they've done in return is allow you to take multiple shots of every Pokemon. So instead of having one shot for Pikachu, there's 4 shots, and each shot refers to a different pose. And it's getting all 4 poses for every Pokemon. That's the puzzle. And at first I was like, that's not the same. But slowly I realized, actually, that's way better, because it allows people to finish the game. And for those who want to find every pose, that's more game for you. And like some of them are way more difficult than just lining up the environment like the original was. So yeah, I loved it. It was exactly what I wanted, and it looks beautiful. It's like, oh, I get to see Pokemon fly around and interact with each other, and yeah, it was. I really loved Pokemon Snap. I played that while on night shift. I would on my lunch I would play Pokemon Snap because it would allow me about 2 runs through a level, and I just kept going through trying to get my scores up. So, number 2 was this is where the tough decisions come in, and it'll reveal what my number 1 is. But my number 2 is Psychonauts 2.
Well, yeah, I know what number 1 is.
Yeah, you do. But I loved Psychonauts 2. I'd give it a 10 out of 10. It made me emotional, but in a good way. Like, I cried. It was sad, but art should touch you sometimes and make you sad and make you feel things. The music was amazing. The voice acting was amazing. I want to call out that performance by Jack Black. He did a fantastic job. But yeah, so here's this jokey sequel to a jokey-ish game that kind of covered some mental stuff like trauma and but here they are doing like even more and discussing like OCD and memory and everything, and yeah, I loved it. It was a fantastic game, and to nail the 3D platforming too. On top of that, I went and got every trophy or not trophy achievement for it because I just loved it that much. Oh fuck! So here's my worst game. Do anybody want to take a guess? No.
That you played?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Is it a review game?
I did not review it, but we did review it on the site. I want to say it was Ken that reviewed it.
Oh, okay. I don't know what.
It's 12 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't review that game.
Oh,
Worst
okay.
game, really?
Nobody reviewed this game.
Nobody
Oh,
reviewed
good.
this game.
Oh, I thought we reviewed it. Okay, yeah, worst game. So like I said with Eastward, looked at other games, learned nothing from it, but decided that it was going to be a loop game and be just one of the worst logic puzzles I've ever seen in a video game.
Yeah.
Plus, the twist is one of the worst story twists I've ever heard. It's awful. I quit this game because it was so fucking stupid. I was tired of getting to the end and being told, nah. And then when I found out what you have to do to get to the end is just keep losing and having to, like...
Yeah.
So there's another game. If for some reason you're like, oh man, 12 minutes, the idea of 12 minutes sounds good, don't play it. The story's bad. Go play Sexy Brutale. That's a better time loop game. It fucking irritates the shit out of me. And why is there a time loop? I don't fucking know.
Yeah, that never made any sense.
Because
there
fuck
was no
you,
time
this
loop.
game is a waste of time.
The other time loop game that came out this year, I heard was actually really good. What was it called?
Forgotten City.
Forgotten City.
Yeah,
That one's good.
and Deathloop. There was multiple time loop games this year, and all of them are better than this piece of shit. And you might say, well, but why is it the worst game? Because in other point-and-click games, there'd be a way to speed up the process, but it's only kind to you in that way when they're gonna make you wait in a closet.
Well, they also do it at the very end, like when you're trying to actually get all the endings to the game. They will just be like, wait for the guy to show up. I'm like, okay, cool. So I don't.
Well,
have to
that's
go through all
great.
that.
So there's no hint system built into this game. Like, not even him talking to himself.
Yeah.
And they got all these great actors involved. And this game is fucking terrible. And it seems like the culmination of Annapurna's nonsense, I guess is what I'm going to call it. Like, oh, we make high art. Well, you push the limits of that because this is not art as a video game. This is a bad story and a bad game. So, what do we have left here? Like, visuals? Sure, I guess. It sounds fine. But, like, it's... You would do all these things. You think you'd have the puzzle solved. You get to the end, and no. So what was the goal? That was my biggest issue. What was the goal? To get a time loop? Apparently not. So I hated it. I think it's a bad video game, and you might say, "Oh, it's not the worst of this year," but like Balan Wonderworld, that game's not as bad as everybody makes it out to be. I played it. The demo was terrible. If you played the demo, I played the demo. It was fucking bad, and I've heard the Switch version's even worse. But that game is fine. It's just not great.
It's when you want every
it's a
button on your controller to be the jump button. That's
yeah,
Balan
it's a
Wonderworld.
mediocre platformer, and that's from Square Enix and two people that made Sonic. So yeah, it looks bad, but it's a mediocre platformer at the end of the day. It's a 5. I didn't play Popeye. That's the other thing that I can say. I didn't play Popeye. I wasn't gonna buy Popeye because it's like $5 in Canada, and you know.
Man, I almost spent that $3.89 just to see how bad it was, but I didn't.
I've watched videos. I can attest that it's probably the worst game of the year. But out of the ones that I played personally, 12 minutes. Just I want my time back. I want my 40 minutes or 12
It was
minutes.
only 12 minutes, man. I don't know what the big deal is.
Unfortunately, it's more like 40 minutes. And it's not so. It'd be one thing if you're living in a 12-minute loop, but you're not even living in a 12-minute loop.
No, it's longer than 40 minutes.
Yeah.
No, but that's where I quit.
Yeah, no, I put probably 4 hours in this game.
Yeah, fuck that noise. Yeah. Yeah, so my number one, Ken?
Inscription.
I know
It
what
is Inscription. Yeah, so take a card game that I want to be real, and add a bunch of other shit to it, and then had some weird story attached to it because weird shit's my jam. Fuck, man, how could it not win? Like, all I want to do is play the card game that's in this with a friend in real life. Like, it was that good of a card game. They didn't need to do anything else. But no, they absolutely went above and beyond in every step of this game. I can't talk about it any more than that because I'll ruin the game for you.
Yeah.
That's what's the worst part about this, is like the fact that Devolver put it on their website. That let me see here. Inscription. Let me just pull up their page. If you go to the Inscription website, it's not that. But if you go to DevolverDigital.com's Inscription page, the less I say, the better. 10 out of 10, Anthony Mann for ZTGD is on the website from Devolver. Yeah, I can't tell you more than that, because if I go into any detail, it ruins this experience. It's such a weird game. But if you like card games that have a kind of a unique playset, like, yeah, it feels a bit like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, but it also doesn't play like those at all. It's this really good fucking card game, and they built this weird shit about it, and I can't get enough of it. And all I do is think about, like, how this game could be better, and that's not because there's any flaws in the game. It's just like, man, what if they added multiplayer? They've already added an endless mode. Like, it blows my mind on how good Inscription was, because when I got it, I was like, oh yeah, it's like a escape room mixed with a card game. That's it's way more than that. There's way more in this game, and the escape room stuff has its own puzzles. It was just to get more cards to build your deck, like and then there's other ways to get more cards, and like there's a moment in the first section of the game when a mask flips upside down, and I went, oh my god. I didn't realize that. And I was like, man, just, sometimes there's just a game that built off of gameplay is fantastic. And that's this. Like, if I could give it a higher score. So, Psychonauts is a 10 out of 10, and Inscription is a 10 out of 10 with an asterisk for, like, just how original this game felt to me. And it's like, I played previous games from this developer, and he built upon aspects he had in his previous games for this, and even that isn't the part that kind of blew me away. I'm sure I won't be the only person. I'm sure I'm not the only person to say that it's their game of the year. It's a game that you should experience. If you don't like card games, though, you probably aren't going to like it. I'm sorry, Ken.
Yeah, I'm out. I read everything about it. I don't need to play it because I don't like those kind of games.
Yeah, but man,
I
I'm
don't
only
care.
about 3 hours into it, but holy crap. I'm just like, I have to see the rest of this.
There's been
And
so
Drew,
many. There's been so many games like this where people just can't stop talking about it, but it's just not my jam, and I can't.
it only gets better.
Yeah. I've already
Yep.
seen some weird stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, what? Yeah.
And
Anyway.
the only other thing that I want to say is the only two games that I'm really disappointed I didn't get to this year are Chicory and Loop Hero. Because I feel like both of those were kind of made for me, but I didn't play them.
Yeah, I want to play those two. I heard nothing but good things.
All right. Well, that wraps up yours. So I'm gonna move on to. I want to hear Wombat's 5 played games of the year.
Or you want me to go next?
Yeah, I want you to go next.
Okay. Yeah, so as Ken kind of referenced, mine's a little different this year because I only played 4 games that I felt like I had played enough of to consider for this list. And so they're, you know, so here's the deal. I generally speaking don't have time to play much, and so I generally only play things if either A, it's in a series that I already know that I like, or B, if it gets substantial praise, enough to the point where I'm like, okay, yeah, I should probably play that. So I played 4 games, 2021 games, I'll say, a significant amount, and all 4 are in my top 4. Because again, I generally don't play bad games. I do have a dishonorable mention though. But what I did want to do though is I did play either some stuff that I didn't play enough to feel like I could include it on the list, or that I don't necessarily like including on a game of the year list. So I included those as honorable mentions just because I played them this year and because I felt like they should at least go on, get mentioned somewhere. So, honorable mentions, I'm going to say MLB The Show 21. If nothing else, even though I didn't feel like it was quite as good as last year's game, if nothing else, because it finally came to other systems than the PlayStation this year. And I think that was a really awesome thing for a lot of people who've never had a chance to play the series before. And so I felt like it at least deserved to get an honorable mention for being more widely available now than it ever has been, so that more people can play a real baseball game, a real MLB baseball game. So that gets an honorable mention. I don't normally like including DLC on these lists, but I'm going to give an honorable mention to the Wrath of the Druids DLC for Assassin's Creed Valhalla because I thought it was good and I thought the story is good. I'm going to give an honorable mention to Flight Simulator, which I was super hyped for and is really good, but just it's just not a game that suits the time that I have to play. If I had, hours of a day that I could just afford to fly and relax, this game would have been much higher on my list, but I don't have that time. So as it is, it's a neat sort of escape, but I just don't have the time to invest in that game, the time that a game like that requires. And then the other one I'm adding that's technically disqualified, but I'm going to add it anyway, is Hades, because I didn't play it last year on the Switch. I only played it this year. And so if I had played it last year, it would have been on my list, but I hadn't. So I figured I'd at least include it as an honorable mention this year.
Nothing wrong with that.
This one's going to be both an honorable mention and a disappointment in the same game. And that's Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance. It gets an honorable mention from me for the fact that they created a game based on my favorite series of novels, and it's a spiritual, at least, successor to one of my favorite games from the PlayStation 2 era. And it gets a disappointment because it just wasn't very good.
No, it was not.
And so I probably played more of it than most people because I'm so invested in the characters. but man, it's just not very good. And I likely will go back and end up playing more of it for the same reason. But even while I'm playing it again, I will recognize that it's just not very good. So yeah, that gets a honorable mention / disappointment from me. So into my actual games. Again, there's only 4 of them. And I won't beat them to death because I'm sure other people will have more to say about at least a couple of them than I will. But number 4 is Metroid Dread for me. I am not someone who is a huge fan of the Metroid series. It is not with the exception of Super Metroid, it is not one of those series that has a ton of nostalgia for me. I barely played the original during the NES era. I had Metroid 2 on Game Boy and hated it because it was hard as balls. And I did enjoy Super Metroid. But Dread to me is really, really enjoyable. I really like that game. I have not finished it yet. I'll just go ahead and mention that now. But I have really enjoyed my time with it, and I'm looking forward to continuing to play more of it. So that's, I understand there's probably some folks who are huge fans of the series that were disappointed by the game, but as someone who's not, it was really enjoyable for me. So that gets number 4. Number 3 is Hitman 3. That's a series that I'm a huge fan of. And while I haven't finished the 3rd one,
Ryan, what
yeah.
mission did you get up to? If you
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Did you do the one in the manor?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes. So that game is an extension of the awesome sort of soft reboot of that series. I've loved every game and every mission that they've done since they put that out. I love the fact that in the 3rd one, you can play all the levels from the first 2 as well. I think that's a super smart addition. The graphics are fantastic. It looks phenomenal, and it's Hitman. So, yeah, there's that. Number 2, the top 2 won't be a surprise to anybody that's been listening to the show. Number 2 is Halo Infinite, which I mentioned last week. I am of 2 minds of. There are parts of the game that I just absolutely adore, and there are parts of it that are maddeningly frustrating. And again, I spent probably way too much time talking about Halo Infinite last week, so I won't beat that horse to death again. But on a whole, despite the criticisms that I had of it, I really, really enjoyed the game. And if nothing else, it deserves kudos for bringing the series back in a big way from what I was convinced was certain death. I was not convinced at all that 343 was going to be able to put together a good Halo game, especially after the delays. And I was very pleasantly surprised with the way this one turned out. I love the grappling hook. I think there's parts of that game that, if they're tweaked a little bit for the sequel, could be really, really cool.
Did you end up finishing it?
I did, yes.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So, the last 2 games on the list I did finish, and so that's also probably part of the reason they're higher on the list. But that game, again, it just the best thing I can think to say about it is it did Halo things very well, and the same stuff that the series has always struggled with, this one struggled with. And that's, difficulty, and their version of difficulty being just throwing a bunch of people at you at once, and having sort of bullet sponge style enemies, especially bosses. The bosses are
I wasn't here for the discussion, but how long did it take you guys to beat the stupid hammer boss in that corridor area?
The Escherum?
I forget his name. They're all so forgettable. But he's the guy with the giant hammer, and you're kind of in that drilling mine thingamajigga.
Oh, the
That one.
boss from the drilling mine.
Yeah.
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 No, that one, it didn't take me as long
Mm.
because there is a hidden in a little cubby hole along the outside of that. There's a sort of upgraded version of the gravity hammer called the Rushdown hammer.
Oh, fair enough.
And it's one of only, I think, a couple places in the game that you can find it because I never found it anywhere else other than when you finish one of the targets off. And so I died on that guy like 3 times and said, you know what? Clearly the weapons I have aren't good, so I'm gonna go scavenge around and see what I can find. And when I found that hammer, it made it a lot easier. But yeah, I mean the bosses. So there's really only one that I can think of that I thought, man, the area that I'm fighting him in makes this fight cooler than it probably would be otherwise. And I don't want to spoil anything. It's towards the end, right towards the end of the game. Um, but they are just like, instead of um, really having a whole lot of strategy associated with them, it's really just, hey, let's just see how much damage we can make this person take to kill. And then some of them, they make it even worse by throwing a whole bunch of ads at you during the boss. The one I can think of specifically is a robot towards the end of the game, where they do that. They throw a bunch of ads in the room with you when you're trying to fight the boss, and also the final boss is like that a little bit.
What
Um,
difficulties did you guys play the game on?
oh, I never play anything on anything higher than normal ever.
Uh,
So I
Yeah.
played it on
I,
normal.
I was playing on heroic, and that's one of the reasons why I was having such a tough time with that boss.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
don't. I don't even bother because I'm too old for my Halo skills to even be considered anything other
We
than.
and especially with Halo, because I mean, again, I beat the horse to death last week, but Halo's version of difficulty is we're going to put you in an area, and we're just going to throw every single mob that you've ever seen in the game, all in the same spot, and we'll add a couple tanks, and we'll add a couple other vehicles, and every single Halo game has done that in the last 1 or 2 levels, and that's just not. I don't know. It's just not my idea of difficulty,
Yeah, it's
and
kind of more
so
frustrating than difficult. Maybe I'll bring it down to normal.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I think Halo. One of my biggest issues is most of the times when I die in Halo, it's because somebody got me in an area where something exploded or I got one-shotted. Like it's never they whittled me down and killed me. It's always just like a shock that I died.
yeah,
For me, I've always played the Halo games with co-op in heroic mode, just to kind of, keep things interesting. So I went into this one, and of course there's no co-op for it, but I went heroic anyway because it's what I've always done. Because I always found the normal mode a bit too easy. But since there's no secondary person be there to like res me or kind of stay out of battle to get me back up, it becomes significantly more difficult because I only have one life to work with instead of two. So
yeah,
that's where I'm at.
yeah. And so while we're mentioning flaws, and I promise I love the game. There's just when you play it's that way with most games. When you play a game as long as I played that, the stuff that's annoying really sticks out. A lot of the weapons in that game just aren't any good. They're just not fun to play with. So that's the other thing that I'm not a huge fan of. Like the Needler, in my opinion, and I know some Halo person's going to argue with me. I don't care. The Needler hasn't been good since the first game. Maybe you could say the second game. And yet they throw them all over the battlefield. It's like, I don't want that. I don't need that. Get that out of my face.
I wish you couldn't even pick up the plasma pistol.
Yeah, I mean the plasma pistol at least is good because if you charge it up, it'll take out shields quickly. But even there's never a situation in that game where I thought, oh, you know what would be really helpful here is a plasma pistol, because or a needler, right? Because every other gun is better. And I know some people will say, well, the scarcity just adds to the strategy and planning, and that's just I don't buy that at all.
What would you guys think? I know this is going to be blasphemous to long-time Halo fans, and I know some of you guys are already. I really felt limited to the weapon aspect of it. I know you have the main gun, the side gun, and kind of your accessory stuff, and you have those sub tools, which is nice addition for this game. But every time I play Halo and I'm looking at all the stuff on the ground, all the weapons that I want to use, I want to experiment. I want to kind of use them in different situations. But when I do want to actually use them, I don't really have access to them, or they're kind of out of my way, and I don't have enough bullets for that gun. So if Halo decided to change its formula of the main weapon, side weapon, and decided to go for something like a weapon wheel where you have access to all the different weapons that you picked up in the game, do you think if you balance out the game properly, that's something that Halo could thrive with, or is that something that would never work for Halo?
That would work for Halo Infinite right now.
I mean, you could say that, but at the same time, I'm gonna be real honest with you. The only gun I wanted to use in that game most of the time was the fucking Mauler pistol.
Yeah, so also it's a good question, Jay. I think because there's two parts of me that are sort of battling. There's the part that says, yeah, it would have made some of those areas a lot easier if I had my choice of weapon. And then there's the longtime Halo fan part of me that's like, nah, it kind of changes the game too much. What I'll say is that what I do wish they would allow you to do is allow you to carry two weapons and a sort of heavy duty weapon, I'll say. So they already let you carry two weapons and like a Gatling cannon if you pick it up, or a plasma cannon if you pick it up. I feel like probably there are parts of the game that would have been more fun if I had the option to carry, some sort of medium range weapon, some sort of close range weapon, and either a sniper rifle or rocket launcher.
Isn't that how that's done on Destiny 2?
Yeah.
It's on Destiny. Yeah. You always have your primary, secondary, and then a power
heavy,
weapon.
Yeah.
Basically,
That's
a heavy
how I
weapon.
want it.
Yeah, a heavy weapon.
Yeah,
It would have been good to have that in Halo.
Yeah, and even if they wanted to classify like an energy sword or a gravity hammer as a heavy weapon, I think I would be okay with that because you've still got some other close range weapons that you can use. But yeah, I do think there are parts of that game that would have benefited from that for sure. Yeah, but so before I don't want to drag on too long about Halo, and before I end talking about that, I want to make sure that I call out the voice acting and the story of the game. I thought the story was the best one since Reach. I really, really enjoyed the story that they told in this game. I thought the voice acting was fantastic, particularly the voice acting for Escharum and for the weapon. I thought both did a tremendous job of portraying
And
believable
Escharum is the
characters.
main antagonist?
Yeah, the main
Yeah.
brute. Yeah, that's Escharum.
Yeah. His voice acting was tremendous. And so I mentioned a couple weeks ago sort of the Womble unified first person shooter theory, which was that the most important thing in a first person shooter is having a great villain or a great set of villains to point the gun at. And I thought Infinite did that tremendously well. They gave you some named enemies, although the named enemies were a little bit generic. I would have liked more if they had done something a little more like the Nemesis system from Shadow of War. But the Escharum as a final boss was, I thought, perfect and really made up for a string of bad targets in the last couple Halo games. So yeah, some of the other positives and negatives I have are more spoiler related, so I won't go into them here. But all in all, I really, really enjoyed the game, and it greatly exceeded my expectations. So, yeah, that was my number 2. And then my number 1, which should be no surprise to anybody that's listened to the show, was Psychonauts 2. I was and remain a huge fan of the first game, and it was for a time, and probably still is, near the top of my favorite games of all time. And I had the opposite problem with Psychonauts 2 as with Halo Infinite, where my expectations were almost unmatchably high for the second Psychonauts game because I love the first one so much. And I'm glad to say that it met and exceeded nearly every expectation that I had. So the story is tremendous, the platforming is tremendous, the characters are tremendous, the voice acting is tremendous. I, like Anthony, went around and collected everything, finished everything off. As I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I would have got all the achievements in the game were it not for a glitch that didn't pop one of the level completion achievements. And I'm not going to go back and, at least not right now, going to go back and play all the way through the game to unlock that level again. But yeah, I can't say enough good things about Psychonauts 2. It is amazing. And a testament to how good it is that even though he has never even heard of the first one, my son also played Psychonauts 2 and loved it, played the crap out of it, enjoyed it to death. And I have said for a long time that Psychonauts is one of those properties that deserved to be bigger and more expansive than it was in terms of popular culture. And I hope that some of the success and the praise that the second game has gotten not only gets them to make us a sequel sooner, but allows that property to have a little bit more legs. So that's it for me.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and move over to Jay. That's right, Drew. I'm going to make you wait.
Yay.
It's because you were late, son.
I can't help it. I was going to church.
Well, Drew, you know me. I don't play a lot of games, so I probably don't have a lot to talk about.
Nah. You probably only finished like one game this year.
Yeah, I found Wombat's list to be a little too long, to be frank. So I'm going to keep mine a little bit shorter. But so I put it down to only about 84 honorable mentions. So let's just get started. No, we're not going to be doing that. That's it's a little crazy. We all have stuff to do. But I do have a few honorable mentions. I'm just going to go with 3. I want to keep it concise, but I feel like these bear mentioning because of their significance. The first game is Guilty Gear Strive. I think the game is solid. I think it's a good foundation for what's to come and for the iteration of the series. But the reason why it's here is mostly because of it really popularized the use of the rollback netcode that a lot of fighting game community people are aware of, where you're able to fight against people online all across the world with fairly good results. And they decided to implement this to one of my favorite games or favorite fighting game series, BlazBlue Central Fiction. And I've been playing the heck out of that. I think I put like 100 hours into that in the last like month and a half or something like that, and it's been fantastic. And it's going to become more of the norm for these fighting game developers to implement the rollback because it's going to be such a big selling point. Ken, I don't know much about the DC fighting game netcode. Do they also use rollback, or do they just mostly go delay, if you know?
Well, Mortal Kombat 11 from NetherRealm launched with its own netcode, but then they brought in rollback towards like the mid development.
Did you see a difference compared to the other iterations where this one was better or worse?
Yeah, absolutely. It ran a lot better, and then they added crossplay as well. So it actually ended up being really accessible as far as getting online, and it felt really good.
Fantastic, and that's the kind of like positive change you want to see in the industry, especially these days with everyone kind of being isolated. You want to be able to have these online experiences without having to sacrifice too much in terms of playability. And rollback netcode, when it's implemented well, can be a shining beacon for the fighting game community. So I want to see more of that. Every other fighting game coming out should implement a version of that and try to do their best to make sure their online is up to par. Because I
Yeah,
think.
it's weird to see that re-release of Persona 4 Arena not having rollback. That's very weird. And I haven't heard of King of Fighters. I think King of Fighters has it.
King of Fighters does have delayed readiness. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
rollback. Yeah, rollback. Yeah,
But it's weird
uh,
that Persona 4 is not getting it. Seems weird.
it is weird, especially since it's coming from Arxis. But I think maybe Atlas is handling more of the work than Arxis, and maybe that's why. Because Atlas is more of an RPG company than they are a fighting game company. So I
Yeah.
don't know the logistics behind that, but they did say that they are interested on implementing it after launch. So we'll see whether they keep true to their word or not. But I can say definitively, since a lot of my Twitter and social media stuff is involved with fighting games, that a lot of the excitement for the re-release of that game kind of was deflated when they decided that it was not going to be rolled back. So it's going to have a huge impact on the game's sales and how it's going to perform in the long run. So hopefully they'll put that in there. As for the other honorable mention, and this one's going to be a shocker for a lot of people that know me to see it on my honorable, not on my top 10. And I think that's going to speak more to how strong the top 10 is and how this game kind of dropped the ball in certain areas. And that's going to be Monster Hunter Rise.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I kind of set it up, but you probably figured it out. And the thing about it is that Monster Hunter Rise as a video game, as a Monster Hunter game, is actually pretty great. It's excellent. It has some of the best mechanics and some of the fights and stuff like that is fantastic. I had a great deal of fun. I put like 180 hours into it, and I don't regret a second of it. However, the game launched incomplete in a status where the ending and the final battle of the game hasn't even been launched yet, and that had to come much later. And because this is a game that's following Monster Hunter World, which is a revolution for the series of what it was able to do in terms of visual fidelity, and the playability, and just being able to play that game at like 60 FPS on like the PS5 or on like on my computer at like 144 max out visuals, going back to Rise at this kind of capped 30 frames per second. And I know how that sounds like, but once you have a taste of something and you have to go back to something that is not as good, it's always gonna sting, whether you like to admit it or not. And that's kind of where Monster Hunter Rise is for me. And I really appreciate the fact that Capcom did give an earnest, effort to try to make their saves cross saves so that you can take your Switch saves to, like a PC, but they weren't able to implement that, unfortunately. So I'm not gonna be double dipping on that game. But when I played the demo of Monster Hunter Rise on PC, it was like a world of difference. Being able to react to certain things that monsters are doing, because a lot of that stuff is timing based, so you want to really be getting in there. But yeah, I mean, it's still a great game. And Monster Hunter fans, especially PC gamers that are gonna get their hands on it in like the next week or two, is going to love it. But it is what it is. It's kind of, it's on the Switch. What can I say? The the other game that I played, and this is a game that is actually not finished. You can consider it to be early access or not, but that's Deltarune. I actually waited until Chapter 2 was released this year to jump into it, and Chapter 1 had been released like a long time ago at this point, so I didn't really hear much about it. But of course, it's made by the guy that made Undertale, so I had high expectations, and I was actually kind of worried because Undertale to me kind of felt like lightning in a bottle. The everything about that game just works and it achieves exactly what it sets out to do, that I wasn't sure if they could pull it off again. And based on what I have played and seen of the first two chapters of Deltarune, Undertale was not a fluke. This is legitimate. It is really, really good. Just heartwarming story, characters, fun combat engine, exploration, all that stuff, and the great humor that you were expecting as well is all there. I can't wait for the full release. I'm going to be playing it on day one for sure. So let's go to my top 10. And I'm not going to number the top well, 7, I guess, because I don't really care to put them in order. I only put the top 3 in order, so you're just gonna have to deal with that. Hitman 3 is the first one that comes to mind, and everything that Ryan said rings true. It's Hitman. It's been good since the first iteration of this series of games that has been going. But I think Hitman 3 probably has some of the best missions of the series, especially the one that takes place in the manor. I'm not gonna get too far into it, but they did things in that level where the interactions are so varied and interesting that you don't even have to lift a finger to kill your target in that map. It just naturally happens. But the idea is that you're going there to see like kind of like a whodunit kind of a detective mystery, and the way you can approach it, how you get to the bottom of that mystery, everything is fantastic. The only thing that really held it back is the final level, which was kind of very linear. And although I appreciated that it was a change of pace, certainly. It's not the way I wanted that game to go out because, every single other mission was so really, so strong. You figure the last one should be the best, if not one of the best, and that was not the case for that one. The other game is another good old Switch game, Shin Megami Tensei 5. Once again, would have been higher on my list if this game was not a Switch game. Because, oh man, this is a turn-based RPG, and a lot of the times the visual like fluctuations and the frame rates and stuff like that don't really bother it too much until you get to certain points where platforming is necessary, and at that point, it's just like a hell on earth. Because I'm pressing the jump button, it happens like a second later, and I'm just sitting there, just kind of falling down, having to do it over and over again. But outside of the visual nonsense, I think the game had a really great explorable world, more so than any other Shin Megami Tensei game. The worlds and the areas that you explore are huge, and there's such great incentive to explore and to collect various different demons. And yeah, the gameplay is fantastic, and the difficulty. I know a lot of times people want their hands to be held and everything, but Shin Megami Tensei is not about that. This is a real hardcore experience. If you go into a boss encounter expecting to win on your first try, probably don't play Shin Megami Tensei 5 because you're expected to lose the first round, get that data, and try to build your team around what the boss is doing, try to make a strategy. And I love all that stuff. It's something that you don't see in games a lot these days. The other game is Metroid Dread. I think Ryan put it pretty well. I'm not as big of a fan of Metroid as I know some other people are, but I do enjoy my 2D Metroid games. I enjoy the 3DS one. Was it Samus Returns, right? That was the one.
Yep.
Yeah, that was good, but Metroid Dread is kind of that, but much better in basically every single way. And it's one of those games where I had a great time. The sense of progression just felt so smooth. The level design was just intricately crafted by talented developers. Every single thing that you do, even if you feel like you might be going off the beaten track and you might not be at the place you should be, if you were able to get there, then yes, you're actually supposed to be there. And it was kind of wild because I was switching between all these different zones and stuff like that. But it turned out that was actually the critical path that I had to be in. I never even got lost a single time in the Metroid game, which is kind of crazy because, these Metrovania games are kind of designed in a way where you're going to be backtracking a lot. You're going to get lost a lot. But because the level design was so good, that just never happened. The only thing that's holding me back for giving it a higher spot is that once I beat the game, I finished the story, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, I didn't feel the need or desire to go back to collect all the other stuff. And that kind of tells me I didn't enjoy the gameplay loop of it as much as I did in the initial playthrough. So it is what it is, but it's still great and great return to form for, Mercury Stream, right? They're the guys that, yeah. I didn't think they had it in them, and they proved everyone that they are talented and they are able to make these crazy games. Because if you're coming up with their like last games playing like Castlevania, what is it, something of Mirrors or something? I forget what the game was called.
No, their last game was technically Samus Returns, but before that, it was Lords of Shadow 2.
I will not take blasphemy on Lords of Shadow, though. I will give you Lords of Shadow 2. That thing was a troubled, fucked up development. But the original Lords of Shadow is still one of my favorite Castlevania games. I don't care.
It's
Yeah,
phenomenal.
I liked it too. And that twist ending though, oh man, I love that.
They are good
So
at
good.
rewriting what we believe of classic franchises. They did it in Metroid too, which I won't go into, but yeah.
I just love hearing Jay talk about Metroid Dread and me going, I didn't see any of this.
Really? Wow.
Man, I got super lost, and that's not usually something I have an issue with in Metroid. But I was like, I think it was just the zone swapping, and
Yeah,
I
they
just
do
didn't
that a
think,
lot. Uh-huh.
and the environment never said to me like, "Oh, I'm here. I know exactly where I'm going." Because there's just areas that are like more caves and stuff, and I don't know. It was just maybe the shapes of the rooms. Something to me just didn't scream that. That's the reason why I didn't make my list. I love the ending of it, but it was just a very weird experience seeing a bunch of people feel completely different about that game than
Yeah,
me.
I think it might have to do something to do with like our perception. You know, kind of the way we do puzzle solving. Some people are really good at puzzle solving in one particular way. Another person is great at in a different way. And I think that might be one of the things about Metroid Dread because the way you perceive the levels and where you feel that you need to go sometimes is built in a way where you're incentivized to go to certain areas, and if you don't pick up on that or if that's not as obvious to you because that's not kind of the way you do puzzle solving in your mind, right? I could see that being like a big problem, but at least for me, I felt the invisible hand of the developers pushing me all the way through without any kind of like jerky motions or anything, and it was actually pretty remarkable in that way. So interesting to hear the other side of the corridor though. Okay, next game is a Resident Evil Village. This one had a lot to live up to after Resident Evil 7 kind of re-injected some life into the series with the whole first-person aspect of it. And Village, I think, is a great game. It's probably one of the de facto a, like a amusement park ride kind of game where it takes you on a tour a little bit of everything. It does a little bit of like horror like in the mansion that you go into. It does a lot of the stuff that other games have done in the past about like upgrading your weapons and items like Resident Evil 4. It does
Showing you have a domination fetish. That's
yeah,
why.
yeah, exactly. I still don't get why the large lady became so iconic, but at the same time I think her performance and her presence in the game was tremendous. I wish she was in more of it for sure. But that didn't take away from the game that she wasn't in like, more than like a fourth
Well,
of the game or
well, it
something like
also
that.
helps that
Mhm.
I'm gonna say two of the other three areas are pretty good. I did not like the the
The Heisenberg?
merman
Oh,
area,
okay.
but the house and the factory were both excellent.
Yeah, the merman area was fairly forgettable compared to the other areas for sure.
Yeah,
But I know a lot of people actually really hated the factory, which I actually really like because I thought fighting those enemies, like getting the weak spots in the right ways and the scenarios that you're put into was actually pretty fantastic. But yeah, I mean the game was great. They put an end to Eden's story in a pretty, I think, respectful way in a lot of ways, and I'm excited to see what they're gonna do next with the series. Ken, do you think this is gonna go to another first-person shooter game, or is it gonna be another change?
I think it'll continue in this, especially with the ending. If you noticed
Yeah.
the little thing at the end, I don't think this story's done. So I think the next one is going to be another in this style. It seems like Capcom likes to do three of a style, so I think
True.
there's still one more in this one.
Yeah, okay, and I am totally not sick of this whole first-person formula for Resident Evil, so I am down for another one. Hopefully they make some adjustments here and there. But overall, a great game. I had a lot of fun with it. The other game on the list is Tales of Arise. I think Tales is one of those games like Drew. Have you ever played a Tales game yet? Still, or you just kind of still not played one?
Nope.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get you on like a Rise or some Vesperia or something like
Tales
that.
of Arise was exactly what I needed when I
Mhm.
needed it. Like, it's a pretty boilerplate standard JRPG, with like more of that modern kind of actiony combat.
Yep.
But I really, really enjoyed what it did. I think I played through about half of it, and I want to go back and finish it. But I really did enjoy what I played.
Yeah, I think this more than any other Tales game has probably one of the most interactive combat engine
Hmm.
of them all because you have that ability to dodge and everything that if you dodge at the specific time, well, that kind of thing is played out, but it's something fairly new to Tales. And if you have that moment-to-moment gameplay decision where you're trying to keep track of all the enemies that are attacking you, trying to switch between different allies using their cooldown skills and stuff like that for certain scenarios. It's very active and a lot of fun. The storyline initially starts out a little bit on the slower side compared to some other Tales game, but I think it really gets going. I think the characters get a lot of love later on in the game. I was invested in how the story would end, and yeah, just the production values of Tales of Arise, if nothing else, was a standout. And I think this was the best-selling Tales game as far as like the launch title numbers go. So yeah, kudos to Namco Bandai for that. So they put in the money, they put in the effort, and they're being rewarded for it. So I would like to see more higher budgeted Tales games going forward because I think in all realistic like projections, I think Tales has the potential to be just as big as like a Final Fantasy, just as big as like a Dragon Quest if they keep adding more to it in the long run. Just kind of, increase the production values and delve a little bit deeper into some unknown territory here and there in terms of gameplay. But yeah, it's great and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The next game on the list is Psychonauts 2. I think Anthony and Ryan it said exactly what I love about that game. I still get the urge every time someone brings up Psychonauts 2. I want to watch that concert scene again. It's like every single time, and you guys know what I'm talking about. The music, the visuals, and everything is just fantastic. And like Anthony said, the voice acting by Jack Black and basically every voice acting in that game is just really well done.
I call out Jack Black because I didn't realize it was him. When he was the glowing ball.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was him, and then I went, "Oh my god, it's Jack Black." And that whole level is where I cried. Actually,
Yeah.
It's like
the
every
music
every performance in that game is so good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it certainly left an impression. And it's one of those things where I was actually scared for that game because another game studio bought by Microsoft, and I'm not gonna say like it always turns to shit, but there have been many cases where things just didn't pan out the way you would like after being bought up by another big studio. So in Psychonauts 2 case, they just basically gave them the realms and say, hey, just make the game that you guys are gonna make in the first place, and they did exactly that. The vision was there from beginning to end, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I didn't enjoy it enough as far as the gameplay loop to go back and get all the things, especially not the stickers, because that seems like a lot of annoying work. But as far as completing the story and seeing that through, yeah, absolutely, a ton of fun, and also game day one and Game Pass, so that certainly helped matters too. The other game on my list, this would be number 4, and not actually number 4, but this is the 4th game, would be Unsighted, another Game Pass game that I actually very, very recently finished. And it's like a 2D action adventure game. If you guys ever played Crosscode, it gives me that kind of vibe where you have like the Zelda dungeon kind of elements to it, where there's like these challenges you need to get, like upgrades for your characters that allow you to get to new areas. But it's also a lot more flexible in a lot of the ways that it allows you to kind of go to next areas and stuff like that, which I thought was pretty fun. And the big hook about this game, and I know that this is going to be a little bit divisive, and I'll go into it a little bit deeper, is that there is a ticking time bomb element to it, where every single character, not just you, but every single character in the game has a set number of hours before they lose their mind and they go crazy, and they're no longer the person that they were. And every time you meet someone, they go into your contacts list. And under that contacts list, under their name, is going to be the number of hours in game that they have before they go crazy and they're no longer available to you. But within that game, you have these thing called meteor dust that you can give to these people that will actually allow them to live a little bit longer. It gives them 24 hours into their life cycle. And obviously hours are not exactly what it is in real time, but 24 hours is still a decent chunk of time. It gives them a bit more leeway to see if they can survive the whole ordeal and everything. So you have this game where you do want to explore and you do want to go around collecting items, equipment, and get all these other stuff. But at the same time, the more you're taking time to do and go through your objectives, the more of the people around you start to fall apart and they're no longer around. So you have this thing where you have to make a choice. Do you want to go around exploring, try to make your character stronger, find some, craftable items that'll make your, weapons more powerful, blah, blah, blah? Or do you want to just kind of go to the next objective, try to find more meteor dust and try to see if you can, keep these people alive? And who you decide to give the meteor dust to actually determines whether or not they're going to make it through the game. And also if you give them enough, then they'll give you like a special upgrade or something like that. So you have to decide, hey, do you want this person alive because of the services that they provide and the item that they're going to give you at the end of it? Or do you want to just kind of go, invest all this stuff on yourself and your ally so that they stay alive till the end of the game? So because of this one twist, it actually puts a sense of urgency and it makes the choices that you make feel like it matters in a lot of ways. And the best thing is, if you don't like that element, if that sounds a little too stressful to you, you can turn that aspect of the game off completely without any issue. It doesn't even change the story too much as far as like what actually happens. It's going to change the ending, obviously, depending on who survives and stuff. But it gives you the option if you don't like it. But I played it with it on, and it was stressful at times for sure, but it was really rewarding when I got to the credits and I saw the people that I helped along the way that survived. And yeah, if you like that kind of 2D adventure action game, check it out. It's fantastic. It's only about like 9 hours long or something like that to do like a complete playthrough. So it's not even that long.
That team is extremely small. I want to say it's like maybe max 3 people.
I don't know about the team, but they made a great game.
I follow them on Twitter. I know
awesome.
There's 2 of them for sure, and I believe there was a third one that did music. But they keep adding stuff too. So recently they added loadout options.
They did, and that was necessary because you had to actually change your weapons around. Because in this game, you're not actually getting like just tools to go through areas. Like for example, if there's like a big lake or something like that you need to traverse through, if you have an ice weapon like an ice grenade gun or something like that, if you shoot it at the lake, it'll create a platform, right? But you have to actually shift to that weapon. You have to equip that weapon in order to do that. So not having loadouts makes kind of like going through areas kind of a pain in the ass. By the way, Game Pass version hasn't updated yet because they always take forever to approve these updates. So still waiting for it.
I played that demo on Steam. I own the game on Switch. I just didn't get enough time to play it. But I picked it up once they added the aspect where the time was removed.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, like, certain things stress me out, and that was one of them. The other thing that stressed me out was unpacking this year, which is a lot of people love that game, but man, that made me stressed out for like no good reason. But,
I don't understand being stressed out about unpacking.
Oh my god, dude! It just where's it all gonna go?
So it was kind of like an OCD thing, like where are you gonna put everything?
I can't do it.
Okay,
but
I got that.
Jay, have you ever played the game Scourge the Hive?
Oh, that sounds super familiar.
It was like touted as a Metroidvania, but like you only had so much time outside of safe areas because like there was no oxygen or something like that. It played a little bit like Unsighted in a lot of ways. So like when I saw Unsighted, I was kind of like that one game that I played that was like a Game Boy Advance DS title. So I liked what I played. So I back you up to a certain extent.
I've got it installed. So I'm gonna give it a try in the new year.
Like I said, you can turn that time limit aspect of it off if that bothers you. But I would say try to stick along with it just to give yourself like a new experience because if you turn that off, it does kind of kill certain aspects of that game that's supposed to be there. Because having to choose who's going to end up living, who's going to end up dying with the things that you're giving them is kind of like heartbreaking in some ways, and not having to go through that, which smoother emotional experience, but it makes the choices that you make feel less impactful.
I left it on. I was like, yep, we'll play as far as I get, and if it gets bad, that's when I turn it on, or I go through a different run and turn it on after. I do like that option's there though.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But okay, now we're up to the top three, and I would say that this year more than any other has been kind of the year of the indies for me, and my top three will kind of go and show that. Number three is Everhood. Anyone here play that game?
I don't know
I
that
don't
I've
even know
ever
what
actually
this
even
is.
heard of that game.
What you say, Anthony?
I've never even heard of Everhood.
Oh wow, Anthony, you, my friend, would probably like this game a lot. I
I'm
don't know how
looking
you
at it
feel.
a lot.
Uh, I don't know how you feel about rhythm games. How do you feel about rhythm games?
I like rhythm games.
Okay, then you would like this game a lot. So Everhood is this like psychedelic rhythm game with very interesting world building. Uh, and it's one of those games that's very, very, very difficult to explain. It's one of those games where you see the gameplay of it and you're like, wow, this looks so simple and dumb. And when you actually play it, you have those battles in the context of them and what they symbolize and what they mean and how you can resolve some of them is actually really fascinating. And as someone that loves these kind of like trippy, weird indie games with like uh, I guess uh, how do I best describe it? Man, it's hard to say without ever like spoiling anything. But I would say is that like, it has very simplistic rhythm game mechanics that actually expands and increases in difficulty the more you go throughout the game. But there is like this overarching storyline about who you are and what you are there to accomplish. And it's fascinating. It's got a lot of different endings, a lot of crazy different types of encounters and bosses you can get to, and the best thing about the game is the music, because the way the music and the gameplay is integrated, they're like one to one. It's completely necessary that you play with the music on, otherwise, if the game wouldn't make no sense to you. And yeah, it's just fantastic. And if you haven't played it, if you haven't heard of that game, I would say check it out. Just even look up like a video down. I'm not sure if the game has a demo or not, but it's one of those games where I saw someone play the game for about 5 minutes. I turned that stream off. I purchased that game and started playing myself. That's how like fast I was into that kind of gameplay loop, and yeah, it was great.
Okay, I'm looking at this because you are right. It very much seems like something I would be into.
Yeah, yeah. If
Um,
if you
it
play it, let me know how you like it because
I'm probably gonna pick this up like right now because the way that the rhythm game aspect looks,
mhm.
it reminds me of, and this is just one of my shitty pulls, um, Mega Man Star Force.
Oh God, Anthony.
You know,
That is a pull.
yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, you are dodging things on a field, so there is a similarity there for sure. It extends a lot more than that, but initially that's what you're doing, so I can see the resemblance.
God
And the
damn it.
visuals are crazy. Oh my god.
Yeah. This is one of those games where if you're gonna get high and play a video game, this is like one of the games. Not that I've done that or anything, but I'm just
I
saying.
want to note that
Yes.
in my looking up for it, this is the only time I think one of them's on sale. Fanatical has it included in the Platinum Collection Build Your Own bundle, so you can get that and two other games for $12.79.
Oh
That's
my goodness.
Canadian, so whatever
That
the
is
American price is.
Yeah, that is a tremendous value. Like this game itself, I bought it at full price and I would do it all over again because I put like 15, 20 hours into that game. I still have endings that I could unlock. So
And just to tell you what the other, like some of the other games that are in that bundle, Baldur's Gate 2 Enhanced Edition, Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition. So you can get two Baldur's Gate games and Everhood for like $10.
nice. Those Platinum Games collections, it's if you don't have like the ridiculous libraries that some of us do, It's actually great to pick up some like games that are like really highly regarded, but then you never had the chance to pick up earlier. So yeah, definitely check it out. I highly recommend it. And Anthony, like I said, if you play it, let me know how you like it, because I think this is going to be one of those. If you had played this game, this would have been on your top 10, I would feel. So,
It's a big
okay.
praise. Okay.
Yeah. This is big praise indeed. But number two, Inscription. I think Anthony said everything that needs to be said, which is not a lot, which is exactly how we like it when it comes to Inscription. And Drew is playing through it now for Phoenix Down, so make sure you guys listen to that as well. But the way I view Inscription is that it's a delicious layered cheesecake. Each layer, there is something good about it. You have the card element of it. You have the weird mystery element of it where you're stuck in the cabin. You have another mystery on top of that, on that kind of like, if you only like one aspect of this game, you would have a good time. But if you like multiple aspects like me and Anthony did, then you're gonna have a fantastic time. It's one of those things where you just want to find out what's gonna happen next, because you don't know where you're gonna end up, what the greater mystery is, and what it could all mean. I felt like at the very end of the game, the way it ended was kind of a little bit abrupt. I wanted maybe a little bit more answers, but I understand why they did it that way. And I certainly appreciate the fact that they're still updating the game to include more features and stuff like that. I want that Casey's mod that they're putting out for the endless cabin mode to come out in 1.0, and then I'll play it, but it's currently in beta. But yeah, it's another one of those games. I played the demo up for about 20, 15, 30 minutes or something like that. I was like, oh, I'm going to buy this game immediately. And I beat it in 2 sittings after that. And I have gone back to it once more just to like see if I still like the gameplay loop, and I do. I like it a lot. I'm not sure if I would play a full-blown card game based on it, but I would at the very least try it out, because it's still pretty fun. But there are certain aspects of the game where you progress and you make your cards stronger. I'm not sure if that would fit well in a multiplayer game, but if nothing else, a better single player campaign, a longer single player campaign like the endless mode would be beneficial. So for my number one, this one's going to be a little bit controversial, because this game actually came out on December 25th of 2020. But I'm going to include it here because this is the game that I have thought about ever since that I completed it back in March of 2021. And because it came out so close to the end of the year, I feel like it's reasonable to include in this year, because unlikely you would have been able to beat that game in like 5-6 days anyhow. So, and that game is Omori. Anyone play Omori here?
No, I know of
Amor?
Amori.
Omori.
Amori?
Mhm.
Never heard of it.
It's a
So, go ahead.
beautiful looking game.
Yeah.
Beautiful looking. Nothing looks like Amori. I unfortunately watched somebody spoil it for me, which is a disappointment. I'll still play it at some point. I don't know if the Switch version came out. I wanted to wait for the Switch version, but uh, it's an RPG, and I think kind of like Inscription, saying too much about it would spoil it. But I mean, Jay's the one that played it, so
Right. I would say it's similar, but the way I can talk about it is kind of the themes and what the game does. And like I said, the Switch version has been announced as coming out later this year. You probably, if you watched the indie showcase, the last indie showcase that Nintendo did, I think that might have been the last trailer that they ended off with, which to me makes sense. You know, the last trailer seems to feel should be the biggest one. And to me, Omori is definitely that game to you end the show on, because it is just that incredible. And the thing that makes this game is that this looks like a typical like RPG Maker game once you initially check it out, because it's got like the little 2D sprites and everything. Yes, it has the gorgeous like pastel style like art work for the characters and a lot of the world and stuff like that, but it feels relatively simple. But the story that it tells here is probably one of the most like emotionally charged, and the themes surrounding the game is about trauma and how we deal with some things that kind of impact us and kind of leave such a big impact on our lives that you end up changing your life forever. And how that is portrayed in the game, I think, is very mature and in a way where it actually makes sense. And if you think that this is just going to be a game that's kind of like one of those like artsy fartsy, like, oh, this is going to win one of those indie game awards for making people cry a lot, it's much more than that. It's a game that has, you know what I mean, though, Ken,
Yeah,
right?
no,
Like,
I
there's a lot of
100% know what you mean. It's just the way you word
Yeah.
it. It's going to make me cry a lot. That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, and it has a great combat engine too, because even though a lot of the game is spent taking place between two different worlds and two different sets of like gameplay elements in a lot of ways, the whole mechanic of the game is based on people's emotions. So when you are sad, you don't take as much damage, but you don't deal as much damage. When you're angry, you deal more damage, but you take more damage in return. And you actually have to switch between different types of emotions to do certain kind of attacks. You even have to change the emotions of the bosses and other characters that you're fighting to try to turn the battle to your favor. And there's a lot of that element where you kind of level up your character in kind of like an Earthbound kind of way, where each character has their own unique skills and stuff like that they can use. And you have to manage these emotional systems the entire time to make sure that you're not getting completely destroyed by bosses and other monsters. And on top of that, it tells this crazy story about this traumatic thing that happened to this child and how he's trying to deal with it. And once the entire picture forms, and you have the whole story in front of you, every single thing that kind of was like, huh, what is that about? Every single thing makes sense. And the way the game ends, just really, really, really took my breath away. And that's really all I'm going to say about that game. It's a game that I didn't know much about until I watched a YouTube video about the game that was like non-spoilery, and then I was inspired to check it out. And once I did, I was like, wow, I can't believe I missed this game last year.
So
And
even with spoilers, the thing that really sold me on the game was that, and I'm not going to say too much detail, was that there's a choice you can make at a certain point that has a full game, like the game continues on in one of the worlds.
Yep.
And it's like, I'm like, they built all of that. Like normally that'd be a game-ending decision of like, yep, well, too bad. But no, like they built that whole run still. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to see how the hell, like knowing the spoilers, I want to see what the hell happens there, because like that to me is like crazy game development, like to build something that most people just aren't going to see because logically it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's that thing where you choose a one side in like The Witcher 2 or something like that. You don't get to see a like third of the game because you made a different choice and you get a different thing. And it's the same thing with Demori, where you go through entirely different experiences. You have different boss encounters and blah blah blah. And it's kind of crazy, and it really makes sense in the context of it. But yeah, I'll just leave it at that. And you know what it is. And I will say that I was spoiled in certain elements of that game too. It did not hamper my enjoyment of that game in the slightest. So don't let that deter you from trying out the game, because I think it's exceptional. Just don't expect to going into it to be like a AAA game or anything like that. This is a very small indie game, and you can see it just on the visual side of things. It's on like a 4x3 by native. It just doesn't really have a lot of like PC game options or something like that, but it really doesn't need it because of the kind of game that it is. So yeah, it's, just give these games a shot. And like I said, year of the indies. I think I put like five indie games on my top 10 list this year. That's more than any other year that I have, and top 3 all indie games too. So when I hear about people that say like, hey, I didn't have a lot of great experiences this year when it comes to gaming, I would say like, hey, if you broaden your horizons a little bit with a lot of indie games that are coming out, I think you might be in for quite a surprise. And in the long term, you'll have a really good experience. So yeah, check those games out. That's it.
Excellent. All right, Drew. It's your time to shine.
My time to shine, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, to start off, my disappointments / bad games of the year. There's only one. It goes to 12 minutes.
Congratulations, 12 minutes. You're probably the worst game on ZTGD.
I'm sorry, but even you can even ask Matt. Matt was like, I didn't like this game. It was just frustrating. It was a frustrating, like, bang your head against the wall, and when you figured stuff out, you still had to. It was just it was a game of trial and error, and I was like, after about 2 hours of that, I was like, I just want to see the end of this so I can be done with it. And then I saw the end, and I was like, I don't even know why I wanted to see the ending of this.
Yeah, it's a pretty gross ending.
Yeah, yeah. Willem Dafoe is the best part of that game. Honorable mentions. Now, these are going to be some weird ones because one on here, Ken's going to laugh at me, but I'm going to throw it out there because I feel like they at least did something different, and that is the Dark Picture Chronicles: House of Ashes.
I don't know that I need to laugh at that. I like the story in that game.
That they did something completely different, and I don't think me or you ever saw that coming.
Which is weird because that is an obvious thing.
Yeah.
But the way the story
I played that game, and you guys are dancing around something. What are we talking about here?
You played through the new house?
Yeah, I did, but are you talking about the reveal of the things?
Of what's actually
what they
happening?
were. What they were.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, sure. All right.
Yeah. Because the past two Dark Picture games were more of a psychological Twilight Zone kind of thing where not everything is what it seems. This one is just straight up, oh yeah, these are real. And this is what they actually are. And I wasn't expecting that. Honestly, I was expecting this is just PTSD from a war, or something like that.
Yeah, when they were real, I thought they were like, what they kind of lead them to be.
Yeah.
But they're totally not that.
No, not at all. But I want to give it an honorable mention because it's still glitchy as all get out. But that's probably the best one they've done since Until Dawn.
The sun breaks the game.
No kidding. How many times did we see that scene?
At
with
least
the sun?
6 times. At least
I was just
6
like,
times.
oh my god, we have to reload this again.
Ugh.
Next honorable mention, and I don't think anybody has ever played this game, Rainbow Billy and the Curse of the Leviathan.
I played that game.
That game is good.
It's not bad.
That game is really good, and it's so heartfelt, and I think like a parent and their child could sit down and have a fun time with that game.
You gave that game a 9.
I did.
It's a pretty good game.
And it's
that
your
game-
honorable mention?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Because if I put it on my list and like people who listen to this are gonna be like, oh, I'll try this out, and they're gonna play it and like, oh, this is a kid's game. It is a kid's game. Like, I don't want to like, and plus the other things on this list I think I enjoyed more. But Rainbow Billy is like, for what it is, that's a fantastic game. The next one, I don't think anybody's gonna have on the list, but I had a pretty good time with it for the week we played it, The Ascent.
Oh no, that's on my list.
Okay, all right.
I love that game.
Yeah, The Ascent is actually really cool. I know we only played it for about a week, but that was a really fun week.
I kept playing after that, and I still haven't gotten all the way to the end, but I really like that game.
Yep. Cyberpunk 2077, eat your heart out.
Yeah, with the isometric view, kind of feels like a Diablo, but without the loot and progression as much. And
yeah,
I don't know. There's just something about that game.
Did someone mention 2021 narrative game of the year, Cyberpunk 2077?
Right.
Okay, cool. Just checking.
I still haven't played it because it's not.
I still haven't played it either.
Yeah.
I'm
I haven't
waiting for
either.
it to get the next gen upgrade.
Yep.
I've
I
only
beat
put
it on
3 hours in
launch
next game is something that I know Ken's going to laugh at because I have yet to get you the review for it. Death's Door
Yeah.
is a really good game.
Yes, it is. I'm surprised that it took 1 hour and 42 minutes before somebody mentioned the words Death's Door. That
Death's
game.
Door.
Sorry,
is so
I didn't
good.
play it this year.
Oh,
I
That's-
have too much
haven't
shit.
played it.
Death's Door is this year's Hades for me.
It's high praise, man. Hades is crazy.
Well, it's a
That
different
store's-
it's a different kind of game.
It's a different
need
kind of
you-
game, but it's in the same kind of vein as it as far as the combat goes, though.
Yeah, 100%.
Could you-
It's more
could you
Zelda than it is anything else. And
Yeah.
I need you to compare it to stories. Go.
I mean, the combat is as
The
good.
combat's a lot. Yeah, the combat's a lot like it.
Yeah,
Stories, man, stories. You can't beat stories.
stories is so fucking good.
Stories, The Path of Destinies is one of the best games I've played in probably 10 years.
It's a really good game.
It is so good.
It sucks that the follow up was not good.
All right, wait a minute. It was not as good.
It
was
wasn't
still
very good. It really
come
wasn't.
on. Come on, it was okay.
It was okay. Yeah, that's it right there. It was okay. That was it. That's the best it gets, is that it's okay. It was mediocre.
There's a Stories 2?
That's just
No.
it. It's not Stories 2. It's... Oh, God, I can't even remember the
What the
name
fuck
of
was the name of that game? But I remember
can't
it
remember.
like very clearly. It's
Omen Sight?
Moment Sight.
Omen Sight,
that's
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
It got
it's,
a
wasn't
69 on Metacritic, man.
That's about right.
yeah, I'd say that's about accurate.
Stories didn't get that high either.
Well, that's because people are dumb. Stories is awesome.
Stories is
Stories
fantastic.
was really fun, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next game, speaking of stories, Monster Hunter Stories 2, The Wings of Ruin.
Damn, I gotta play that game.
Monster Hunter Stories 2 is a really, really good game. It sucks on Switch.
Well, I mean, that should be like the tagline of 2021 is like, if it's on Switch, well, let's put a little asterisk next to it.
Yeah. There is a lot of padding in that game too.
Mhm.
Like a lot of padding in that game. But the moment-to-moment gameplay is actually really fun. And they throw everything at you. Anything in Monster Hunter, you're gonna find it in Monster Hunter Stories 2. Like they go through tons of monsters in that game. It's really good. It is. The next one, I don't think anybody's going to mention at this point. Persona 5 Strikers.
That came out this year?
I just started playing that game. Like
It's great, and it's legit the sequel to Persona 5. Like, it's worthy of it. That game is really good. It gets monotonous. It most certainly gets monotonous after a while because it is a Warriors game.
It's a Muso.
So do RPGs.
But the thing is like they have that Persona feel to it. They still have that Persona story to it, and it's really, really good. Like I can't suggest that enough to anybody who likes Persona. You really need to play that game.
What if I only like
PS
Muso?
game.
If you only like Muso, then you're gonna be in hog heaven. Because that is straight up a Muso game.
That's the one they just gave that away on PlayStation Plus, right?
Yeah.
I may have to check it out. I've never played a Persona game, but I do like Muso games.
So here's the deal. You're going to be lost if you start trying to figure out the story in that game.
I just hope I
Okay.
can.
I'm less worried about the story.
Yeah,
'Cause
it's
it's
a
like-
Muso
like,
game.
It's legit like a year later after Persona 5. And like they don't pull any punches. They're like, hey, you remember last year that crazy thing happened? Yeah, that was crazy.
So
And then
how
they just keep going.
much dialogue do I have to sit through before I get to whack people?
A good amount.
Fuck, maybe I won't play it.
But it's not like 4 hours. Like,
No, but I mean it's a good hour of dialogue probably. But yeah.
An hour of dialogue before I get to whack people?
Dude, it's a Persona game.
Can I skip it?
Yeah, you can skip.
Yeah,
all
you
the
can
dialogue
skip
stuff
it.
if you
Okay.
want.
I just kind of want to whack people in a stylish fashion. I don't want to listen to them talk about their day at school.
That
no thanks.
game's got a lot of stylish stuff to it, and also there is no school because this is summer vacation,
I'm
and
sorry.
they're going on a trip.
No more
So
tests.
yeah. Anyway,
Give a fuck where they're going. Just let me whack people.
and here goes my top 10.
Yep.
So my number 10 would be higher on my list had I played it more. Resident Evil Village.
Oh, you didn't beat that game?
No, dude, I am still getting chased by a big tall vampire lady.
Holy cow, you're not even started.
I know. But what I played of it so far, I was like, this is legit.
It continues to be legit.
Yep.
I need to hear Drew's reaction to the dollhouse. God damn it.
It's gonna have a good time there.
Whew.
I am gonna get to that eventually. I don't have time.
So
I
good.
just finished Death Stranding, and that took 45 hours.
That
And I
was
don't
your
know,
choice to make, my friend.
and I don't know if I like that game or not.
Oh, that makes
That's
me
what
sad.
disappoints me the most.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that
I
game.
just, I,
I like that game.
Kojima's gonna Kojima, and it works better in Metal Gear than it did this game.
Yeah, but Mario and Peach.
I'm gonna hard disagree.
Oh
Hard
God,
disagree.
that is the biggest cringe freaking cutscene ever. So and it's freaking Norman Reedus saying it. So I can't do his voice. So I'm Mario and you're in Princess Peach. And then she's like, no, it's more like Princess Beach. And I'm like, oh my God, shoot me in the freaking face right now. And then they run along the beach to smile at each other. It's fucking stupid. Anyway.
If only it would have kicked off with like, imagine me and you and me.
Oh man. That game. I don't know. Anyway, next one, and I don't think anybody's going to have this on the list unless Ken has it. In Sound Mind.
No, I don't. I like that game, but yeah.
Man, In Sound Mind, they did some things in that game I've never seen before.
It's a trippy ass game. That's for
That
sure.
game, I have to bring this up. I mentioned it whenever I talked about it before. One of the coolest things about that game, you get your first quote weapon that you can get in that game is a broken piece of mirror, and you're in this creepy freaking like abandoned supermarket, and there's these ghost figures like floating around trying to find you. If they see you, they will chase after you. But because of the story, the ghost is represented by a woman who can't stand the look of her own face. So you have to hold the mirror up in front of you and look behind you when she's chasing you, and it'll scare her away. I was like, this is cool. Like, this is like, you're like Medusa, this shit. It's crazy. That game is really, really cool, and I don't think a lot of people out there played it.
No,
It's
I
like,
didn't.
like a horror adventure game.
Yeah, it's a horror psychological game.
Okay.
I didn't
play-
see like anybody talking about that game, and that game was
No.
super cool.
Yeah, that game is legit really cool, and I think a lot of people out there should try it out. Up next, Forza Horizon 5. Another one of those, hey, I played for 2 weeks. It was really, really fun 2 weeks, and I haven't went back to it.
Yeah.
I
Forza.
know, Ken, I know you hated it, but
Yeah, I hate it. I gave it an 8. I hated it.
A lot of dumpster fire, am I right?
I know, right?
Whew. I got a lot of flack for that 8. Like, how could you not think this is the best game of the year? Because it
Yeah,
didn't.
well, I had people say that about my 7 for Metroid Dread.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you know.
Number 7, Halo Infinite. I don't know if it would be higher on my list or lower on my list. I have not played enough of it, but what I have played of it, including a lot of the multiplayer, probably the best Halo game to come out in the past 6-7 years.
I mean, it's the best one 343 has done for sure. And you can't say it's the best in like 6 or 7 because that was like when the last one came out.
That's true.
It's probably the
When did
It's probably the best one in like a decade at least.
When did Halo 5 come out?
God, that was 2014.
2014?
Yeah,
Halo 5 came out in 2014?
yeah,
2015, sorry.
2015. Yeah, it's a long time
Yeah,
ago,
it-
Drew.
Holy crap.
Yeah, that's how long Halo Infinite took to make, and that's
Never
apparently
mind.
how
Okay,
long.
last decade then.
Yeah, that's how long it takes 343 to make a good Halo game.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Number 6, Pokemon Shining Pearl and Brilliant Diamond. That is a really, really good Pokemon game, and Anthony hit on it a little bit, but the underground stuff, that just adds 10 times more to that game.
I wish the Switch didn't suck. Again, we're talking about the Switch being a piece of shit. So I bought a Switch OLED, and that save does not transfer via cloud. So I lost the 6 to 7 hours I'd played it, and I've never started over.
Really?
Yep. That's the only cloud save that I could not transfer.
Okay.
Yep. So.
Number 5, probably would have been higher, but I've only 3 hours into it. Inscription. What I've played of that game, I'm like, this is something special.
Feel like at this point, with all the points added up, Inscription's the site's game of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Inscription to me, because I've never actually played this game. Inscription to me feels like how people felt when they played at launch Undertale.
I
Because
can see.
there's obviously more to Undertale than what you are let on to believe. There is definitely more to Inscription than what you're led to believe.
I just want to say this, that Undertale got spoiled pretty quickly, and I still don't feel like, unless you've gone out to search for it, like Ken did, I don't think you can stumble into Inscription spoilers. The internet seems to, knock on wood, have been pretty good at not spoiling it.
Unlike Spider-Man.
Unlike Spider-Man, unlike Undertale, like those things seem to be kind of like hard to miss.
I have yet to have, as far as I can tell, I have yet to be spoiled on Undertale, and I've never actually played it.
Yeah, my son's beat it twice, so I know everything there is to know.
I was gonna
about
say you're
Undertale,
spoiled
despite
twice.
never playing it.
I don't know that I know all of Undertale either. I've only played like maybe an hour and a half of it, but I don't think I've been spoiled on it. So
Yeah. Or maybe I've seen a spoiler and didn't realize it was a spoiler.
maybe that's the case too.
I think that's probably more the case with that.
Gotcha.
Like Inscription, I've gone and looked, and like most of the people that are talking about it generally understand, like, Fight Club rules. Don't talk about it.
Yeah. As soon as you start talking about it, you've already spoiled somebody.
Yeah, that's the reason why, like, I talk about, the first couple hours only in detail.
Yeah.
And writing that review was really hard, but I'm glad you're enjoying it so far.
I am. I'll tell you one thing though. I can't beat the fisherman. I can't beat him.
So
We'll get there.
I've made it to him 4 times and I can't beat him.
all I'm gonna say is, you might find that the idea of having squirrels that regenerate as they die be really stupid, but that is one of the most broken skills that game can offer.
Like you sacrifice a squirrel and it stays on the board?
No, you sacrifice the squirrel, it returns to your hand. You can sacrifice the same squirrel because you're not limited to what you could play in a turn.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. There's a lot of synergy stuff in there. There are many ways of winning in that game. You can just make one OP card that like hits every single thing on the board for like 6 damage and just kind of brute force your way, or kind of spread out your power onto different cards and different effects. And the more you play, the more those things become, I say, readily available to you. So it's basically guaranteed. I would say you're going to beat the fisherman in the next 1 or 2 attempts that you do. Almost guaranteed, at least that's my viewpoint. And then from there, you'll beat the next boss in the next 1 or 2 attempts as well. And then the final boss is blah.
Okay.
Have you used the pliers yet?
Yes.
Yeah. It's
I
one
have
of
not. I have not used the dagger yet.
Okay. All right.
All right.
I'm excited.
Okay. I got the dagger, but I have not used it yet.
Mm-hmm. Just use it when you're in a pinch.
I want the knife.
You can't have the knife, Ken. You don't want to play Inscription. Can't be one of the cool kids.
I didn't know if anybody would catch my Golden Child reference.
I understood it, Ken.
Thank you.
Number 4, and I know this is going to get some chuckles out of people. Lawn mowing simulator.
I expected it.
Yeah, I expected it based on the way you talked about it a couple weeks ago.
I can't help it. I put 30 hours in that game.
Jesus Christ!
Oh my god!
Wait. He's put 30 hours in Lawn Mowing Simulator, but has not finished Resident Evil Village.
It's true.
Just not enough time, man. There's no lawn mowing in Resident Evil. Is all I'm saying.
You don't know that. He ain't finished
is not going to cut itself. I don't know what it was. It came at a time where I just wanted to numb my mind, and I really got into it. It's a good, and the support for this game is insane. They've added streamers to the game. They've added DLC where you can cut Stonehenge.
Drew, if you pay me $60, I'm willing to let you cut my grass.
I think it's on Game Pass. You don't have to
It's
pay
on
for
Game
it.
Pass.
Yeah.
It's on Game Pass now.
Well, you don't have to pay for it. You can cut grass for free.
Yeah. They're adding leaf blowers to the game.
Oh shit! How will
Oh
that
my
change the
God.
meta?
Oh, it does. Because you
I-
get charged if you leave a bunch of grass clippings on the
Holy
sidewalks
shit.
and stuff.
Holy shit. I know you're genuinely enjoying the game, and I'm glad for that, but I just can't take it seriously, man. I don't know.
Only to me.
It's lawnmower. I don't even like doing that in real life. Why would I like doing that in a video game?
It's relaxing.
I guess.
And it's
Hey,
also
man.
it's not just you lawn mowing. I mean, you're running a business. It's a business simulator.
Hmm.
As much as I laugh at Drew's, I mean, the updates is where it got me the most, and the amount of time. But like that power washing simulator has been calling my name.
Yeah.
Satisfaction.
Yeah, people love that. People love House Flipper, that kind of stuff.
I tried House Flipper. I did not dig House Flipper.
I got into it for a little while.
I did like Lawn Mowing Simulator, but I only got through about 3 or 4 lawns, and I was like, okay.
Now, my top 3 games, before I get into them, I forgot an honorable mention. This is something I haven't actually mentioned on the show, but it's something I've probably put about 20 hours into. There's a game called Super Auto Pets.
What?
Super Auto Pets.
I feel like
It's
this is a phone game.
It's a free-to-play game. It's on Steam, and it's also on your phone. I have it on both.
Boy.
And it is... Jay, you may actually like this game because it feels like it's almost like a card game without cards.
I'm looking at screenshots and I still don't know what this game is.
You choose pets that you can then level up in between rounds. You can also give them super abilities. On top of that, each pet has its own special ability.
Oh my god, there's a tier list for super auto pets.
Dude,
Of course there is.
you got to understand how addicting this game is.
Somebody sells farts in a jar. Of course there's a tier list.
Incorrect, Drew. I don't need to know how addicting it is to know better. I don't need to know
Okay.
how addictive crack is. I'm good. I don't have to
Okay.
try it.
It's
Okay,
actually
The caterpillar is an S tier, but the Tyrannosaurus Rex is an A tier.
I
Yeah.
mean, that tracks.
Okay,
dude.
cool.
The cat. Here's your combo: camel, kangaroo. You put the camel in front of the kangaroo. Every time the camel attacks, it buffs the kangaroo. Every time the camel attacks, the kangaroo buffs itself.
Every
It's
time a
amazing.
kangaroo attacks, the kangaroo
Typically
buffs
the way it
itself.
happens in the wild.
I think
So
I think Drew just had a stroke.
I had a stroke, I think.
Look, I'm just saying, Super Auto Pets is really addicting. It's actually really,
Okay.
and it's
So
completely
you're
free.
so
It's
so I
free
have
to
a-
play.
I have a question, Drew. Was this picked up because you were at work?
Sometimes, yes. Actually, a coworker told me about it. He's like, "You need to try this game." I was like, "It looks dumb." He's like, "It is dumb, but it's also fun." I was like, "Okay."
Oh,
Fuck
So-
it.
Okay.
Whatever.
Alright. Maybe I'll download it on my phone. Something to play when you're on the toilet, right?
Yeah, dude. Jay, this is completely up your alley. You would
Okay.
actually really enjoy this
Alright,
game.
alright. You gave it a strong recommendation. I shall download it on my phone right now.
Time to buff them camels.
There you go. So my top 3 games of the year. I've debated on it, and I've switched one.
Uh-oh.
So that's okay. Also, I want to give a shout out to my wife. She helped me make this list because I was like, "Oh crap, I haven't made my list yet." So she's like, "Okay, well, let's write them all down," and she made the list and everything. And she also wanted me to say what her game of the year is on the show. Her game of the year is Until Dawn. It's her game of the year every year since we played it.
Fair enough.
My goodness, it's 2 hours into the show and we haven't even made the Overwatch joke yet.
No, I'm not going to make the Overwatch joke.
I know you're mad at that game.
I'm not mad at the game. I'm done with it. I have deleted it off my hard drive.
We're done.
I'm not mad at it. I'm just done with
We're
it.
done.
Yeah,
It's over.
yeah,
That definitely sounds like something a jilted ex would say.
it's true.
I'm not mad at him. I'm just done with him.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
All right, top 3. There are still 2 games on my list nobody's mentioned yet. I want to see if you grab one of them. I know you won't grab one, but
I know one I will grab.
okay, good.
Number 3, which I'm surprised Jay didn't say, unless this is like some kind of rule he can't do.
What is it?
Diablo 2 Resurrected.
That's in one of my favorite, one of the most played games of the year, but it's certainly not one of my favorites with all the fucking issues that the game has had.
All right, yes, I will give you that. That game, fix your friggin' servers, Blizzard. But I mean, they fix this. As far as I can tell, the servers are fixed now. By the time we finished for Phoenix Down, the servers were pretty much solid. But man, that's one of the best games ever made.
Holds
I mean,
up.
it really is, and it holds up great. Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, man, I had a blast with that game playing the Hammerden. Absolutely loved it. And I switched to 2. I switched my number 1. My number 2 game of the year is Monster Hunter Rise.
All right.
It was going to be my number 1, but thinking about it and actually talking to my wife, which I should mention, Monster Hunter Rise is my most played game this year. I'd say I put probably around 70 or 80 hours into it. Yeah, they didn't finish the game when it first launched. I'm not a big fan of the Rampage quests. Those are kind of meh, in my opinion. But the combat in that game is sublime.
The wire bugs, Drew, is so nice.
Oh my god, dude! Not even that. The wire bugs make it 10 times. The wire bugs make even the slowest of weapons viable. On top of that, my main boy, the hunting horn, had the best buff of the year. It was so freaking good. If you're not running a hunting horn, you're playing that game wrong.
Ooh,
It is so good. It is so good.
It is the best version of the hunting horn in any monster game for sure.
It is, and I absolutely love it. Like that's like I was maining it in World, and you got to play your notes. Fuck that shit. Monster Hunter Rise, just hit buttons. Who cares?
Yeah, you're probably doing something positive, right?
That's right.
Breaking dancing on top of a T-Rex.
That's right. But yeah, Monster Hunter Rise is a fantastic game, and it is probably the most accessible Monster Hunter game to date. But my number 1 game of the year.
I'm so shocked by this.
You are shocked by this?
I am shocked by this.
Okay. My number 1 game of the year is Guardians of the Galaxy.
That game is so fucking good.
Oh.
Guardians of the Galaxy is legit one of the best games that come out this year.
It really is.
It is funny. It looks amazing. It plays really fun. It never takes itself too seriously, but when it does take itself seriously, I'm not kidding around with you guys. This game made me cry at one point.
Really?
Yes.
It's written extremely well.
It is, dude. Like, I mean, like, I'll throw it out there. Everybody knows my mom passed away last year, and there's a scene with Drax and Star-Lord, and Star-Lord's talking about how his mom is dead. It made me fucking tear up. Like, I couldn't help it. Like, I was like, this is. I'd never expected this from this video game.
Yeah.
It is really, really good. And my wife convinced me to put it at my number 1 because she was like, Drew, I know you really like Monster Hunter, but while you were playing Guardians of the Galaxy, you would come and talk to me about it. You would never talk to me about Monster Hunter. And I was like, well, yeah, but I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy. She's like, but still, I can tell you were really passionate about that game, and I am. Guardians of the Galaxy is legit. If you have not played that game, play it.
It was so weird because we had that game super early, and I was playing through it, and I know I was telling you guys behind the scenes, I'm just like, you do not know how good this game is.
Yeah.
Like, it's unfathomable that it should be this good.
You know what killed Guardians of the Galaxy for me?
Avengers.
As far as yes, Avengers came on Game Pass, and I was like, well, I still haven't played that game yet, and it's free on Game Pass. I'll play it. And I played Avengers for like 3-4 hours. I was like,
it's not good.
It's so there's so much of a budget behind that game. I feel like I should like it for what it is, but the gameplay is not great. the story is kind of boring, and then I see Guardians of the Galaxy, and I hear some good things about it, but then I just played the Avengers, and I was like, do I really want to go into another
No,
superhero?
Guardians of the Galaxy. No. I'm telling you.
All right.
Avengers wishes it could play as good as Guardians of the Galaxy.
I would almost guarantee you that Guardians of the Galaxy will hit Game Pass this year.
Probably.
Oh, really?
I mean, every Square Enix Western game has eventually hit Game Pass.
Cool.
So
Just,
I bet that this happens.
uninstalling Avengers right now because I forgot I didn't do that.
The way they handle certain characters in the game, Drax is a completely different character from the movies. Drax in the movies is an idiot.
Yes.
The Drax in this game is not an idiot at all. He is just straight and to the point.
And he's still very
literal.
funny.
And he's still very, very funny.
But it's the joke is that he doesn't get it, not because he's an idiot. It's because he lacks emotions.
Yeah.
And like in the movie, it comes off more as like, he doesn't get emotions because he's dumb.
There's a part in the game where Peter is like, okay, we're trying to sneak around people. And Peter's like, okay, we're going to try and be quiet, okay? So everybody just relax. We're going to sneak by these guys. And he turns and looks at Drax. Drax is about to cut a dude's throat who's sleeping. He's like, what about quiet? Do you not understand? Dead is quiet, Peter Quill. It's really, really good. I'm telling you guys,
The
play
use
this
of
game.
music. The use of
Alright.
music, too.
The use of music in that game is fantastic.
Scrounging for... Because so here's the reason why I didn't make my list. I didn't finish it. I didn't play a lot of it. I got to like past the second mission and onto the third and didn't even start the third mission. So like I wanted to play it and just lacked time because I got it towards the end of the year.
Oh, you never even made it nowhere?
Dude, I finished the exploding base level.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
wow,
you haven't
okay,
even started that game.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I was they were literally scrapping for credits. And the use of Everyone's a Winner by Hot Chocolate, I was like, God damn. That is a perfect use of music because it just starts in and I can hear the riff going. And I was like, what song is it? Oh my god, it's Hot Chocolate. Yeah, I was
They have
really
the
impressed.
huddles. The huddles are really good too.
And
So
then I
you have-
fucked up the huddle so it played
Never gonna give you up.
yeah.
If you win that huddle and you inspire everybody, it plays Everybody Wang Chung Tonight.
Great.
Yeah, that game is something special. It depresses the hell out of me that Avengers ruined that game.
And they have nothing to do with each other at
No,
all.
no, they're not even the same kind of. Guardians of the Galaxy has a little bit of Mass Effect in it to the point where
Yeah.
like you can do these like quests and find items for characters and get backstory that's not in the game, and it's really
Another
good.
thing that kind of turned me off from Guardians is that you can only play as Peter Quill the entire game, or can you play as different?
No, you can only play as Quill, but the combat is built around you controlling the other characters.
Yeah.
You're like giving commands and stuff.
Yeah.
Very Final Fantasy 15.
Yep.
Yeah, it's that's exactly what it's like. It's like Final Fantasy 15. But here's the thing: if you're not giving your characters commands, you're gonna fail at that game.
Yeah, they need to do their stuff, and luckily it's really well done to where like you just hold a button and then each character is assigned to a button, and then you can do different moves with them, and it's a lot of fun. It gets a little chaotic towards the end, but it's really good.
I think Ken just made sure that I won't buy that game. I'll just wait for it to come to Game Pass at some point.
Yeah, I know, but it really is worth buying. This
It is.
game was worth $60.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's on my list.
That's it for me, though.
All right. Well, we are deep in this, so I will go through mine. We do have some emails and some tweets. I will read those next week. I promise. I don't want to keep everybody here for 3 hours. I'm going to give you the worst game of the year, and it's not 12 minutes for me. Sorry. I didn't even play. I didn't even play enough of that
Almost
game.
had the hat trick there, man.
Yeah, I know. I just didn't play it enough to care. The game I did play enough to hate excruciatingly was Werewolf: The Apocalypse Earthblood.
heck is
I
that?
forgot that game came out.
Everybody forgot that game came out. It is so bad.
What if we tried to make Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, but with Werewolf the Apocalypse, but also do a terrible job?
Oh
Cool.
my god, it's so bad. I couldn't believe how bad it was when I was playing. I was like, this can't be this bad, right? Oh, it's very bad.
Metacritic of 56.
Yeah, that's generous.
Uh,
Disappointments. Drew be mad at me, but Back for Blood.
I'm not necessarily mad at you because I had that on my list, like down everything that I played, and Back for the Blood was on there, and she was like, "Do you want me to put a star next to it?" I'm like, "Nah. Back for Blood's okay. That's the best thing I can say about it. It's okay."
My
Very
experience.
unremarkable.
Well, my experience with Back for Blood was it crashing the first 3 days it was live. Not even in a game, in the hub. It just crashed. And then the card system, which I think is just... there's no reason for that to be in a Left 4 Dead style game. And then just the not very interesting missions. It's like, it felt like budget Left 4 Dead, which is just weird considering. I don't know.
Have you watched that Crobat video yet?
Mm-mm.
You need to watch it.
Yeah, Back for Blood just... Oof. As much as I said that I was happy this happened, Anthony, but Fatal Frame Made in the Black Water was a disappointment.
Oh,
Because they
I
remastered...
told you!
Well, it's because they remastered the worst Fatal Frame game.
Yeah, but it's... Okay,
True.
past the first three, though.
I mean, fair, but this one is like excruciatingly bad because the Wii U stuff is still in there from where
It's
like you
not
hold the
because
hand.
It's not... It's Wii carryover.
Sorry,
That's
Wii.
the worst part. It's like... So the Wii U game was just carryover shit. And like, that's not why you play horror games. And gonna be honest with you, behind the shoulder stuff, you have to be really good at scaring people, otherwise it doesn't work.
No, this game was just. I'm happy Fatal Frame is back, but I need you to go back and do that trilogy, not this crap.
But the
Yeah.
finger on the monkey's paw curled as you made the wish.
Yeah, and my final disappointment was the GTA trilogy. Boy, that thing was busted at
I
launch.
mean, that
Oof.
I didn't play it, so
I
didn't
did.
have to put it on my list.
I
Yeah,
got to
well,
see
sorry.
the paper mache rain, which was awful. Oh my god, that I don't know how you fucked that up as bad as you do, but boy, you really fucked
They
that
did
up.
it, man. They really and just that whole thing, like how is it can't get worse than it did. It every time I'd ask that question, like watching videos, I'm like, it can't get worse though. It can.
Yeah, it 100% can't get worse. I still don't know if it's fully fixed, but
I play the originals, everybody. They restored them on PC. Play the originals.
I've got quite a few honorable mentions. Some of them we've already talked about. Death's Door, honorable mention that game was wonderful. Tales of Arise, I know Jay and I talked about that one. Biomutant just slipped down to my honorable mentions. It was almost in my top 10. I enjoyed that game a hell of a lot more.
It was a close call for me for Biomutant, even though it was number 9. I always knew It Takes Two was going to be number 10 because it wasn't like my favorite game of the year. But like the amount of time I put into Biomutant, I was like, yeah, no, that deserves to be number 9. It was that or Big Brain Academy. But Big Brain Academy, it's like I bounced off of because it was short. So, it ended up not making my list when I thought about it more.
And then I've got 2 more honorable mentions. Both have not been mentioned by anybody, and that's assuming because nobody played them. Chorus?
You're right. Nobody in this group played Chorus yet.
I'm sure it would have been on my list if I played it.
Oh, it's so good.
I have not played it yet.
Yeah, that is a game I definitely highly recommend if you enjoy space shooters, stuff like, Colony Wars and, arcadey style space shooters. This game is just so good.
As has been well established, that is firmly my jam.
Yeah.
So
You should definitely play this game. And then the other game I played, I'm assuming nobody else played, was Kena, Bridge of Spirits.
I did not.
Oh, I played like the first 15, 20 minutes of that game. It seemed neat, but I never got back to it. I will play it eventually.
Yeah, I probably might have been higher on my list, but I only made it. I think there's 3 spirits that you have to unleash in that game, and I've only done the first one and started the second one, so I haven't made it super deep into that game. But wow, what an impressive feat for a first-time developer. Like that
Oh, yeah,
game
absolutely.
is really, really good. Number 10, Anthony would be disappointed in me, is Metroid Dread. I like that game even with the problems I had.
What? Hold on. I don't hate that game.
I know you don't
understand that.
hate it, but
You hate it just like I hate Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I suppose.
I liked
And
Metroid
I like
Dread.
how Ken hates Horizon.
Forza Horizon, which, by the way, not on my list. Because I hate it. But no, Metroid Dread, probably my third favorite Metroid game.
Oh,
Maybe
fuck
fourth?
you. Okay, now I'm disappointed with you. All right. Okay.
I mean, I think Prime is the best. I think Super Metroid's the second best.
Prime,
Samus
Super
Returns is
Metroid.
probably third, and Dread's probably fourth.
Zero Mission, Fusion.
I didn't care as much for the GBA games. I really didn't. I'm just saying. He got so mad, he got muffled.
I just couldn't. Oh. Wow. All right.
Number 9, Drew, Solidarity, The Ascent. Love that
There
game.
you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Number 8, Halo Infinite. Wow, that one's really far down there, isn't it?
Sound like you got sour the farther you got in there.
No, I mean, I'm like Ryan. I have a lot of problems with that game, but I still really, really, really love playing it. So, number 7 is the only game on my list that is not on anybody else's list, and that's Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I am shocked, but then again, I know Anthony and Drew do not have PS5s.
And I
That's
didn't
on
play it.
That's like number 4 on my honorable. And
Okay.
so I'm there with you.
Yeah. I really like that game. It was a PS5 Ratchet game. Like, Ratchet games have been the same game since, 2002 when the first one
You
came
don't
out?
really improve upon perfection of a style,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, it's...
New weapons, a good story, some more planets, and maybe a gimmick or two.
And not to mention, it's fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've managed to be that way for a while now. I know people think, well, the PS4, but the last PS3 game was really well done too.
There aren't many bad Ratchet and Clank games, and because of the developer, they're so highly regarded for obvious reasons. When the game came out and it was great, I thought just as I expected.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I expected it to be. It did not exceed my expectations, but my expectations were already high to begin with, and that's kind of the reason why it wasn't really on my list per se. But it was still a tremendous game.
I can give you like the bad Ratchet and Clank games, and those are Full Frontal Assault and All for One.
I was gonna say All for One better be on
Yeah,
there
All
because
for
that
One,
game
yeah.
is bad.
But they're not really bad games, but they're not good Ratchet and Clank games.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Number 6, Let's Go Cruising. Cruising Blast, baby.
yeah, I mean,
Oh,
it is fantastic. It was just like compared to what I had on the list, I was like, "Ah, man, I can't put this up.
I can't
higher
even
than-"
like. I beat that entire game in one sitting. Like all of the tracks, everything. I just, man.
It makes me want older racing games back because like Forza Horizon, like I've had my fill at this point.
Oh, is this the game that you're comparing to like the old like Ridge Racer and stuff, Ken, on Twitter?
I mean, I don't know that I was comparing it to Ridge Racer, but it's of that vein of like arcade games.
Okay.
I grew up loving Cruising USA, Cruising the World, Cruising Exotica. I was disappointed when they stopped making those style of games. I loved Rush the Rock, Rush 2,
Beetle
Hydro
Adventure
Thunder.
Racing.
Yeah, Beetle Adventure Racing. Like Nintendo kind of owns the market on those kind of games, and they just haven't done one. And this one came back. It's got Jarvis at the helm. They're gonna make some DLC for it. I'm just glad that Cruising is back.
You can drift as a dinosaur. You heard that right.
And an Apache helicopter.
And I forgot about the helicopter.
That's right.
Oh yeah,
This game is so stupid, but it's so good. Number
collecting the medals is fun.
collecting the medals, collecting the hidden stuff throughout the levels, the keys to unlock new things. Oh man,
The keys, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah,
Yes.
the keys. Oh, the game's so good. Number 5, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. As Anthony said,
Yeah.
Bowser's Fury is so fucking good. You need to play it.
And then you get an amazing game attached to it.
Exactly. Super Mario 3D World with the sped up
The
character
speed boost,
movement.
yeah.
Man, that is a package that if you own a Switch and you don't have that, you've made a mistake.
Yeah.
Number 4, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Hey.
That game is really good.
Very good.
Very good game. Probably would have been my game of the year, but these top 3, I couldn't.
I swear to God, if one of them's Overwatch, I'll quit.
As much as I played it this year, I'm more angry at it than.
Okay, good.
So, number 3 is It Takes Two.
Wow, okay.
I love that game. I wish that I could play that game like solo, so that I didn't have to
that's
have
what I was
somebody.
gonna say. If that game was solo, I'd probably I walked away from that game going, I really wish they would take all the mechanics from this and make basically their own Ratchet and Clank game, because the nail gun and being able to use them as poles to swing on, and like the snow level, the movement in the snow level, and how good the swimming was.
The swimming level was like every level in that game is good.
And they play well. Like, they're not the only time I felt like, okay, we're taking a little long was the tree. But
yeah, the tree ran on a little long.
But yeah, no, I love the game. I'm surprised it's that high, but I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, fuck, I liked it and I didn't go in expecting to like it.
Yeah, I was hesitant after A Way Out of like, well, how good can they do? Like, I respect what they're doing, but like, how good can this be? And then I played it.
Way
and I'm
better.
like, I think the biggest compliment you paid to it back when we talked about it is if somebody told you Nintendo made this, you wouldn't bat an eye.
Yeah,
like that's how good it controlled.
The only thing that kind of gives away that it's not is that
the elephant,
the story. Okay, so let's address the elephant in the room. That sequence is so fucked up, but I laughed at it because it's like clearly dark comedy. Like, it is not supposed to be sad, but because they voted it favorite best family game, some people played it on Reset Era. Somebody was like, my kid was crying at that sequence because like they were asking for forgiveness and you're like tearing it apart.
Dude, that game is dark. That game is dark as hell.
But it's like clearly done only because you're doing it to a stuffed animal.
Sure.
You know, like but that whole game was like, there's a lot of touches where I was like, that's actually genuinely funny. As much as I hated the book, I started laughing at it by the end because it was like clearly supposed to be obnoxious.
Oh, absolutely. Every time he came on screen, I was like, oh, this fucking guy again.
Why you two are not in love? Like,
Collaboration! Oh, that game. Alright. I went back and forth 100 times. But I settled on number 2 is Resident Evil Village.
Oh,
that high, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I love that game. It was almost my game of the year.
I know what your game of the year is then.
I mean, it's obvious, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, which means that Inscription is not the site's game of the year.
No,
it is Psychonauts 2.
It's 2. I'm alright with that!
I am not the super fan that Ryan is of the first game. I thought it was okay. But holy shit, this sequel took everything and just put it on its head. There was not a level I did not enjoy. I remember every level in that game. The performances are stellar. The controls are fantastic. It's funny. And it's genuinely just the best game I played this year. I mean,
it made me go back and finish the first game finally. And I loved the first game. And to be better than the first game in my eyes, like, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, Psychonauts 2. I did not play a better game this year. Resident Evil Village was close, but in the end, I think there was too much of Psychonauts 2 that was good that I just could not pick it as the game of the year. So,
nice.
There you go. Shocking, I know, right?
We got time if you want to do the emails.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm good.
What else is?
I'm
What
good.
are we doing? What are we doing?
All right.
Actually, let's not do the emails because I forgot to mention a couple of things on my list that I totally forgot.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We're in for it's the J Super extended list. It's back.
Well, now we're talking about lists. You got to talk about your favorite NFTs, right, guys? So the
Oh,
Oh,
eighth
fuck
fuck
would
off.
be
off.
All right. Okay. All right.
Mine's the
no,
fart.
no,
in the,
no, no, no.
Mine's
That's
the
not.
fart
I
in the
really
jar.
like the monkey with the hat. Not that one. The other
Yeah,
one.
yeah. The other
The-
hat, the fedora-looking thing with the stripes. That's the best one.
It looks like somebody took a random character, like the button that says generate my character randomly at a character creation screen, and just did that over and over and over on the same monkey.
Yeah, it's one of those like random generator things. But
Uh,
I'm not gonna go. That's a joke. We're not going there. But what I forgot was actually the biggest disappointment that I had written out. And when I started hearing people talk about that, I was like, oh yeah, I have one of those too. And for me, and this is probably not going to be on anyone else's list because it's very niche, but it matters a lot to me. And that would be The Sky at Six. And this is a series by NISA, Nippon Ichi Software, that I've been following since the PS2 generation. It's been going on for a very long time. It's near and dear to my heart because it's a strategy RPG game that kind of always goes to the extremes when it comes to challenges and how powerful your characters can be. Because this is the game where you do trillions of damage per hit. Once you build out your characters enough. You're in the tens of thousands of levels. You're fighting monsters with stats so large that they like leak out of their status windows because it's too much numbers to go with. And I love all the elements about that. Just building up the characters and stuff. And the thing that this guy at Six did, which I think was um honestly just a real kick in the balls for just fans and everything else in between, is that they decided to make the game so bloated in terms of how long it takes for you to do certain things like level up your characters to maximum and build up certain stats and blah blah blah, to the point where they were selling microtransactions to make those things go faster. And that's kind of something that's never been done on any other Disgaea games. They started becoming a bit more greedy and predatory when it comes to like DLC characters and stuff like that. Things that were previously included in the main game were now paid DLC that you have to pay for, like the main cast of like the Sky 1 thing being things that you have to pay for, and like the Sky 5, for example. All these things that were kind of like slippery slope things that were kind of signs of things to come. I saw those things, but I didn't want to believe it because I didn't want the game series to go down that route. And this guy at Six kind of became that game. Those games where you play on your phone, where you just press the auto button and you just kind of let the game play by itself. And that is honestly the most efficient way you can play that game, because the human timing for you to put in the commands for auto attacking and doing all these other things would actually take longer than the computer actually just doing it for you. And that's kind of what they made the Sky at Six to be. You can program the game to basically play itself. I have about 70 hours in that game, but I have played maybe about 30. 40 hours of that game was the game on playing itself, leveling itself up. And initially, I thought that was kind of nice because I wasn't doing a lot of these things manually, which I had to do before. But when it came down to it, I would leave the game on for an hour, come back, and my characters are max level, and then I have to reset and do it again to kind of store those levels and do other things. But there was no connection. There was no sense of reward or accomplishment that I would get by getting all these characters to high levels, creating these crazy items and weaponry and stuff like that, and putting them to use, crushing enemies that I was, having a tough time before. There was none of that. And then to see that they're actually selling like 100% experience boost and money boost and stuff like that as like side things for certain amount of battles, it really felt like this was trying to be initially a mobile free-to-play game that they decided to just put out on Switch and call it the next Disgaea game. And it it's hard, man. It's one of those things where when you have something that you love and you have been following for a very long time. I've been following the Gaia series for like 2 decades now at this point, and they go down this route where they're trying to become something that the series was never meant to be, and going down this route, it really hurts. It really makes me feel like the gaming landscape is going down the wrong direction, and that's what the game made me feel. And if you read my review on that game, it's relatively scathing in a lot of ways because of that. And if I were like a first time playing, this guy game for the first time, this guy 6 was the first one, you might actually in fact like it. But based on the history, based on also the fact that the characters are like the least interesting and likable in this compared to all the other entries, it just rubbed me the wrong way. And one of those things, or rather, how you're upset about a game is when they send you a survey and you take 30 minutes writing out a response to a video game survey. I never do that. I don't care enough to do that for most game series, but I did for this one, and I hope they take it to heart what a lot of the fan base is saying. But yep, that's my biggest disappointment. And I personally don't have like a worst game these days because, like Ryan, our times I think are becoming more and more limited. And when I put up a game and I say like, "Well, this game isn't very good," I just kind of stop playing it immediately. So I don't have a lot of those games, but I do remember playing some games on like Game Pass. I know you guys probably do the same thing where it's available on Game Pass. It seems kind of interesting, so you kind of boot it up and give it a shot. Um, and it kind of turns out to be not so great. So there's a lot of that, but I don't know. I've been steering clear of either requesting to review games that have the potential to be bad, or playing games for a long time that is bad, just for the sake of it. So yep, but that's it.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback on the Game Pass conversation, I almost feel like that probably was my game of the year.
Game Pass.
I mean, it gave me Psychonauts, it gave me Halo, it gave me Outriders, which I enjoyed. It kept me from buying Baldur's Gate.
Baldur's Gate 3?
The Dark Alliance, the one Ryan talked
that
about.
one, yeah.
That one, like that was on Game Pass. MLB The Show was on Game Pass. Fucking Back for Blood was on Game Pass. And it goes to like you can have a game of the year on Game Pass with Psychonauts 2, but you can also have a huge disappointment on Game Pass. So it's like you don't have to pay for it. Like it's just in your subscription.
Yeah, that's fair. But when you're talking mostly on your experience using Game Pass and Series X, right?
Yeah, Series X. Yeah, I know PC's a little different.
Yeah, PC, I wish, and I know that this is on their radar because they made that video about it, about the things that they want to bring to PC Game Pass. But boy, is it just in dire need of some work. Because every single time I play a PC game on Game Pass, I know I'm going to be playing the worst version of that PC game. Every single time. It's going to be the slowest to be updated. It's going to have the least amount of features in terms of modability and things I can do to try to fix the game on Game Pass. Game Pass versions of the same PC game on Steam that doesn't have the issues has exclusive issues that you can't fix on Game Pass because it's on fucking Game Pass. And the way they're trying to push Game Pass and how much value there is to the package, it should be more of a priority for them to fix it on PC. It really should be, and I need them to get their fucking ass in gear and get these improvements in there because PC Game Pass experience is still awful.
Huh.
Yeah, but the games, tremendous value. There's best deal in gaming. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to whatever Sony's answer is this year because the more of these we have, the better off we are.
Do you think they're gonna do something like a Game Pass equivalent where they kind of get rid of PS Plus and do something like this instead?
Well, that was kind of the rumor floating around towards the end of this year was that they're internally, I think Schreier reported on it, that internally they're working on a 3-tiered system that's going to replace Plus and Now and just basically be, well, here's tier 1, it's the cheap one, you get the free games. Here's tier 2, you get like the PlayStation Now service. And then the tier 3 has the PlayStation Now service plus like back compat stuff from what I hear, like PS1 and PS2. So that's the rumor that's floating around. But the big kicker is that Sony is not going to give you God of War Ragnarok on their Game Pass subscription service on day one.
Well, that kind of is not really a competition for Game Pass, if that's the point, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because that's the whole point for Game Pass. You get these crazy exclusive games day one when they're available. That's the whole point.
I just wonder if Sony will start doing like third-party stuff, like Microsoft got Rainbow Six Extraction and MLB The Show and Back for Blood. Like, will Sony start doing that? Like, oh, Final Fantasy 16 is on this top-tier service or something.
I mean, that would be one of the games to make a point with if they're gonna use something like that.
Sure.
And the thing about Xbox is that I know Xbox gamers hate to say it, but the games, are all available on PC. But to me, that's a strength because when you have Game Pass, especially Ultimate Game Pass, not only do you have Game Pass for Xbox, you have PC Game Pass as well. So to me, that's a strength that Sony doesn't have because only a few select Sony exclusive games have made their way to PC. So if at the end of the day, if you're going to charge the same price as Ultimate Game Pass, but don't offer the second platform, as like the PC that the Xbox does, it's still going to be a lower value. So because of that, it's going to be a uphill battle to the point where I don't think it's winnable for Sony. I don't think they should even play that game, to be frank. They're not going to be on the same playing field. They don't have the same resources and the same kind of platform support that the Microsoft does. So as much as I would like to see like another value-oriented like subscription for Sony where I could save some money in the long run because of the amount of the games that we play, I don't think it would be successful for Sony based on the logistics side of it, at least the way I see it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And to be fair to your comment about people mentioning, Game Pass has the game on Xbox and PC, why is that not a strength? That's only not a strength to the fanboy war.
Exactly, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, like that part of it. Like, if you think that's like a weakness, you're a fucking moron.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know why people argue that. They're like, well, it's not exclusive. I don't give a fuck if it's exclusive. I think games should be everywhere. I hate this timed bullshit. I think it's
Especially
all,
the meaningless time bullshit. Yeah.
yeah,
Hate
it's
that
it's
stuff.
all stupid, and they all do it. And you need to stop. Like, your games, you want your. It's just like, you know, people want access to these games. Like, I've seen indie developers talk about Game Pass, like it's available to more people, so more people play it. That makes us happy. If you sign a deal that says we're only going to be available on this platform, less people are going to play it. Sure, it might be on the Switch, which is the biggest selling console, but you're still missing that other 20% of the market.
And
So,
you're shooting yourself in the foot when it comes to the ambition of the title that you're trying to release, because it's going to have to be smaller in scope if you're going to put it on Switch. Just imagine if you live in a world where basically every game that is ever released comes out on different consoles. So every Sony game comes out on Xbox, every Xbox game comes out on Sony, every Nintendo game comes out on PC. That's like the ideal gamer world that I would like to live in, but that's a bit of a fantasy for sure.
yeah, could you imagine, playing some of these Switch games that are limited in a box like the PS5 or the Series X or like a high-end PC or something? Just
The thing that hurts the most, Ken, is that you don't have to imagine it because there are emulation options available for Switch and other things. So when I see Shin Megami Tensei playing at like 144 frames per second with like 1440p resolution, like buttery smooth on a PC emulation, and then I'm here playing on my Switch, you know, barely hanging on to the 30 and then kind of having all my inputs dropped and stuff like that because of lag and everything. It's just like the the utopia exists. It just they just don't want you to have it. It's
yeah,
just kind of
100%. I really respect like Microsoft doing the FPS boost, like going back to some of these old games
mm.
and playing them at 60 frames a second is just like wow.
I do feel bad about beating down the Switch because I think the platform itself is great for what it is.
Sure.
It just comes down to it's late in the generation, right? So we're expecting more and more and more. And what we wanted from the iteration of the Switch wasn't just the OLED. We wanted more power. So I think whatever the next generation of console that Nintendo's gonna make, I hope it'll be sometime in 2023, maybe.
Yeah, but let's be fair. It won't be as powerful as probably the Xbox One X or the PS4
Probably,
Pro.
probably not. But at least we'll have a little bit more wiggle room in terms of performance.
Yeah. The only games that look amazing and run at 60 frames a second on that machine are the Nintendo games, and well, that's just because Nintendo are fucking wizards. Let's just be fair.
Yeah, they know how to optimize their shit. Metroid Dread, the fact that that runs at 60 is pretty amazing.
Every first party runs at 60 except for Hyrule Warriors, and I think that's just because, well, let's be fair. And then Breath of the
Yeah.
Wild didn't run at 60, which was disappointing.
Yeah. And the fact that he even ran at 30 is pretty impressive.
It is, yeah, for that fucking
For that game,
mobile chip that's in that thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
At least you not to play
Yeah.
it on the Wii U like Ryan and Drew did.
Well, I actually did my initial playthrough on Wii U.
Oh
and then
God!
I played it on Switch. And then I
Me
played it
too.
later on Switch. I had a good time. The Wii U thing with the map was pretty nice.
Yeah, I enjoyed the game. I know it probably
No, you
wasn't as good
didn't.
on the Wii U as it was on the Switch. It's true. It's true. I hated it. I thought it was terrible. The worst.
I really wish that, like, I hope that Nintendo's next machine, even if it is only as powerful as, like, let's say the One X and the PS4 Pro, like, I hope that it's all backwards compatible and, like, Breath of the Wild runs at 60 FPS. That'd be beautiful.
Yeah, that would be super nice. Nintendo's track record for backwards compatibility is weird,
It's
though.
trash.
No, they had Wii U, which could literally play all Wii games, right? And then you had the Switch, which could literally play none of the things that they
Well, I
had.
was
Yeah.
gonna say, but they had the Wii U that could play Wii games. They had the first editions of Wii's that could play GameCube games.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they
Your
removed
Game
that.
Boy Advances could play Game Boy Color and Game Boy games, and then your DS could play just Game Boy Advance games, and then they got rid of it.
But then
Yeah,
the Switch can't play shit, and instead you're going to spend $60 on an updated version of a Wii U
Yeah,
game.
but you get Bowser's Fury with it, so I'm okay.
That's the only one. The rest of them is you know, it's the same game.
Yeah. And then they put time limits on when you could buy it for whatever reason.
Yeah,
Doesn't make
the Super Mario 3D collection. It's
That's
like,
still weird.
you
But
think?
we haven't seen any of that since.
Anyway,
Digital scarcity of things has always been a weird concept to me, but it is what it is.
I mean, the obvious evolution there is NFTs, right?
Ugh.
Hey, I didn't mention it this time, so it's not my fault.
All right. So that's 2021 in a nutshell. Hopefully, listening to this, you discovered some new games you want to go check out. That's always one of the things that I like is when
On
people,
Everhood.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like you go through these lists and you hear what these people are playing, and you're like, oh, I should check that out because they really enjoyed it. And
Yeah, I put 4 games on my to-play list after talking to you guys about stuff. So
Yep.
I hope the listeners have something similar. Write down some games that seemed interesting and check it out.
absolutely. But we're gonna get out of here. I know everybody is running deep. And I've got football to watch. I got to pay attention to see if my team gets in the playoffs.
Good luck.
Yeah, well, I've got 3 scenarios. There's 2 teams right now that if they lose, we're in. But if either one of them win, then we got to win tonight. So it's one of those fun scenarios. You gotta root for other teams.
Now that you've laid down the scenario, you know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, well, right now, both of those teams are not winning. So if they end up
Okay.
losing, then
Oh, good luck, good luck, good luck.
But still, we're the primetime game tonight. So regardless of what happens, if we win tonight, we're in.
Just
Which
take your blood pressure medicine first before you start
I
watching
will
the game.
definitely have to take my blood pressure medicine. I'll have to keep cool because I'm sure it's going to be a stressful evening.
Every time I know Raiders game is on prime time, there's always going to be some great tweets coming from Kansas to Kansas. I always look forward to this.
Yeah, I get a little worked up. If you can't tell. Sometimes my wife and my son are like, "What is all that noise coming out of your office? Why are you screaming?" All right. Well, unless anybody has anything else, we're gonna get out of here. Anybody? Anybody final thoughts on 2021?
Great year for game. 2022 looks even better.
I know, and it's kicking off soon. February.
February seems insane.
February seems a little stupid.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to begin with February.
It makes me feel bad for a game like Sifu, which might get buried.
You think?
Yeah, that's a bad time for that game to come out. And the game looks great too, which is
It does look great,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I know the Terrence on our site played the preview version. He said it was fucking awesome. So
not games shouldn't be trying to go against like Elden Ring, like especially
Horizon comes out
yeah,
next
Elden
month.
Ring, Horizon, and stuff like that, and There's other games coming out in February too, lesser known
Fucking
games.
Rainbow Six, King of Fighters, fucking Jesus.
It's
Anyway.
pretty.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then we'll get out of here.
Alrighty. And it goes something like this.
Epic fail. Welcome to the N4G podcast. $0.
This is going to be a very interesting episode.
Gather time.
Greetings, programs. I got lost trying to find my way to the secret underground N4G radio lair.
The Wombat. And
always being angry.
Killer Wolverine. Play games, not consoles. No bad boys allowed.
And then I killed the dragon. 8.0.
Killed the dragon.